Chapter 708. After stomping Qin Dong to death, his body flattened and recovered. Then he flew out of the star of divine punishment wrapped in green light. Inside the green light, Qin Dong looked at Lin Jun with eyes full of fear. It was a fear that came from the depths of his soul. Lin Jun turned back into his human form and pulled out Qin Dong's two swords from his shoulder. Blood flowed out of the wounds. Lin Jun was also injured. However, he didn't care. Only a few minutes had passed. He still had more than 20 minutes before the effect of the God Power pellet and the transfer of star power was over. During this time, Lin Jun wasn't afraid of anyone. Sweeping his gaze across the crowd, those warriors immediately fled at the sight of him. More than 20 heroic banner warriors had been slaughtered. What was the point of them, who couldn't even be considered cannon fodder, staying here? Until now, the notifications about Lin Jun eliminating so-and-so still hadn't stopped. It was not until 20 seconds later that the last notification about Lin Jun eliminating Qin Dong rang out. Only then did this crazy wave of killing finally come to an end. After eliminating more than 20 heroic banner warriors in a row, Lin Jun's heroic banner warrior had reached level 4, 6 stars. As for his total points, he had charged into the top 50. At present, Lin Jun's overall ranking had already reached 45th place. These heroic banner warriors weren't ranked too high. The highest ranked warrior, Yuan Kuei, had just entered the top 100. It was already very difficult for Lin Jun to enter the top 50. There are still 3 heroic banner warriors in the 39th district. One of them is in the tower nearby. The other 2 are at the teleportation array. The 2 at the teleportation array should have come with Ku Xiangdong and the others. I'll take this opportunity to deal with them. Lin Jun was about to step forward when 2 more notifications popped up in the dimensional universe. Eastern Continent's Area 61 heroic banner warrior Yang Guang has been eliminated by Eastern Continent's Area 10 heroic banner warrior Qiu Shuihan. This is a notice. Eastern Continent's Area 90 heroic banner warrior Li Bing has been eliminated by Eastern Continent's Area 22 heroic banner warrior Zhao Qingshan. I hereby announce this. Then, Lin Jun saw on the map that the 2 hero banners from before had been destroyed. 4 hero banners had appeared in their place. Moreover, the hero banners on top of the tower quickly came to their side. The people who eliminated the 2 hero flag banners are the owners of number 1 banners in their regions. They're truly powerful players, and they're definitely not people Ku Xiangdong and the other hero flag banners who are only at the middle or lower tier. I wonder who they are. Lin Jun quickly checked the rankings and soon found some clues. Qiu Shuihan, ranked 41st in the overall ranking Eastern Continents No. 10 Battle Zone, Secret Sect Warrior. Zhao Qingshan, ranked 56th on the overall ranking Eastern Continent's 22nd Battle Zone, Secret Sect Martial Artist. These 2 people were both from the Secret Sect. Lin Jun could already guess who the other 3 hero banners were. The man on the tower must be Yi Chong Tian, the owner of the number 1 hero's banner in the 39th Battle Zone. He was ranked 61st on the overall ranking list, and was also a Secret Sect warrior. The other one was Chun Feng Xiao, the owner of the number 1 hero's banner in the 71st Battle Zone. He was ranked 28th on the overall ranking list. Chun Feng Xiao, Yi Chong Tian, Zhao Qingshan, and Qiu Shuihan were collectively known as the 4 gods of the Secret Sect. As for their leader, he was currently ranked 4th on the overall ranking list, the young master of the Secret Sect, Sheng Yin. I really didn't expect the young master of the Secret Sect to bring his 4 gods here. This is going to be a bit dangerous. Lin Jun had just finished transforming into the Black Hole Beast. This transformation could not be used indefinitely, and it required a lot of energy. Therefore, he could only rely on his current astral energy to fight against the people from the Secret Sect. However, Lin Jun had 14 million astral energy, so he was not afraid of anyone. First, he took a healing pill. Coupled with his powerful recovery ability, the sword wound on his back was nothing. He stood there and waited for the people from the Secret Sect to arrive. After a while, the group of 5 from the Secret Sect arrived. Chun Feng Xiao was a white-haired old man. He had a serious expression on his face. Yi Chong Tian was a middle-aged man. He had a malicious expression and his eyes were a bit scary. Zhao Qingshan was a strong man. He really lived up to his name. He carried a pair of hammers on his back. He was like an unshakable mountain. Xiao Shuihan was a young woman. She carried a long sword on her back. Her aura was fierce, and she looked like a heroine. However, the four of them were overshadowed by Sheng Yin in the middle. Sheng Yin was a handsome man full of sunshine. He was tall and had a handsome face. His whole body seemed to emit the light of the sun. He was dazzling, the top four of the entire star of God's punishment. This kind of strength was terrifying. Even if Lin Zhun's astral energy was 14 million, he still felt that he did not have any advantage against Sheng Yin. After all, Sheng Yin was a top realm king of the Yuan realm. He was not someone ordinary people could compare to. Lin Zhun was a whole realm lower than him. It was already amazing that he could do this. Sheng Yin came in front of Lin Zhun and smiled. This is really beyond my expectations. Lin Zhun, you are very surprising. Thank you for your praise, young Master Sheng Yin. You're also very surprising. No. I'm not praising you. I'm just stating facts. Those who know me know that I never lie or boast. When I was at your realm, I was far inferior to you. Lin Zhun did not reply. He wanted to hear what Sheng Yin had to say. Sure enough, Sheng Yin changed the topic. However, you can only stop here. Since you have killed your way into the top 50 of the star of God's punishment, you are worthy of me taking your life. However, I can give you a suggestion. Be obedient and don't move. Let me pat you lightly and end you. This will save you a lot of pain. Hearing this, Lin Zhun smiled. It seems that you are quite benevolent. However, I have always been a person who does not yield to force or persuasion. Either you defeat me, or I defeat you. There's no third way. Haha, I knew you would say that. However, I still have to explain my point of view. This is a kind of benevolence. To be honest, I don't really like fighting, especially this kind of battle where there is no suspense. After saying this, Sheng Yin took a step back. You forego. Although this little friend is young, he is strong enough. Don't fail miserably. The four gods of the secret sect nodded and prepared to attack. However, Lin Zhun did not want to give them such an opportunity. His divine power pill and star power diversion would expire in a few minutes. He did not want to waste time on meaningless battles. Before entering the weakened state, he had to finish this battle. At the very least, he had to find a relatively safe place to rest. So, when the four gods of the secret sect were about to attack, Lin Zhun took the initiative to erupt. This time, Lin Zhun decided to go all out. 7 star blades rose into the air and attacked from all directions. Not only did he attack the 4 gods of the secret sect, but he also included Sheng Yin in his attack range. Various elemental energies surged in the air. No one dared to underestimate Lin Zhun's 7 star blades. With the Mirage Sword in his left hand and the Yin Yang Spear in his right, Tai Yuan Sword style and Mountain Quake Spear style simultaneously, directly attacking the 4 gods. Time acceleration. From time to time, he would swing a spatial slash, and from time to time, he would unleash a satellite descent. Lin Zhun fought the 4 gods alone. On the other side, Lin Zhun did not let Sheng Yin go. This person was very strong. Lin Zhun did not have the confidence to defeat him. However, Lin Zhun had a divine infant. Sheng Yin's divine infant should have reached dark gold rank. However, Lin Zhun's divine infant was equipped with a spear. No matter how strong Sheng Yin was, he had to be careful. Otherwise, his divine infant would be defeated and eliminated. Lin Zhun's astral power erupted from his body. Dark clouds rolled in the sky, and a whirlwind blew across the ground. Under Lin Zhun's full power, District 39 instantly turned into a living hell. The 4 gods of the secret sect were indeed strong. They knew when to advance and when to retreat. Every move they made was deadly. However, against Lin Zhun, they could not gain the upper hand. The 5 gods of the secret sect, together with Lin Zhun's group of 6, engaged in a fierce battle in the sky and on the ground. Rumble. The ground trembled, the buildings collapsed, and the surrounding martial artists fled. No one dared to stay and watch the show. F***CK. This kid is F***King crazy. If this continues, we'll be laughed at even if we win. The eyes of the 4 gods of the secret sect were red. Elemental energies surged around them, flying daggers circled them, and Lin Jun was crazily attacking like a wolf. Although they believed that they would be the final victors, the fact that the four of them and Shang Yin couldn't take down Lin Jun in a short period of time was enough to make them lose face. They fought like crazy. They would stand up again after being sent flying and get back up again after being sent rolling a few times. The four gods were like this, and so was Lin Jun. Shang Yin pursed his lips tightly. His face was pale. Lin Jun's divine infant was too difficult to deal with. His divine infant was actually unable to withstand the attacks of the rainbow elemental spear in his hand. If it weren't for the full support of his spirit, he would have been at a disadvantage today. However, as long as the four gods could hold on a little longer, he would be able to destroy Lin Jun's divine infant. At that time, Lin Jun would be finished. However, the people in the dimensional universe didn't see it that way. What they saw was Lin Jun fighting a bloody battle like a god. With a pistol in his left hand and a sword in his right hand, he actually had the upper hand. So what if it was the four gods? When each of them faced Lin Jun alone, they were still suppressed. So what if it was Shang Yin? Faced with Lin Jun's flying daggers and divine infant attacks, he still couldn't escape. If this continued, perhaps Lin Jun would really win. If Lin Jun won, he would be the biggest dark horse and the biggest miracle on the star of God's punishment. At this moment, all the Southern Liang people were clenching their fists tightly and pursing their lips. They didn't even blink and didn't say a word. They didn't even dare to breathe. The tense battle scene had everyone's hearts clenched tightly. They were afraid that if they breathed too loudly, the scene would collapse and Lin Jun would lose. Lin Jun, you must create a miracle. Ning Qingxian stood in front of the screen, her eyes sparkling. Liang Jihuan stood in front of the screen, his face ashen. The earth-shattering battle scene lasted for 3 minutes. The five from the secret sect fought Lin Jun. In these 3 minutes, the entire primordial realm recognized this super warrior from the Southern Liang. He was even crowned as the king of the first domain, Lin Jun. Chapter 709. The video of Lin Jun battling the 5 great masters of the secret sect with the strength of a peak 9th domain monarch was still being replayed and circulated by people even after many years. This video had already been recorded in history as a motivation for the domain monarchs to improve continuously. For example, a teacher would say this when teaching a student. The level of a martial artist's realm does determine a martial artist's strength to a large extent. However, don't ever forget that there are still geniuses and miracles in this world. This video of Lin Jun's battle with the secret sect fully proves this point. When a person is talented enough and works hard enough, he can create miracles. I don't expect you to reach Lin Jun's level. After all, there's only one Lin Jun. However, I hope that you will see him as your goal and motivation. You will constantly strive for self-improvement and self-discipline. You will fight for him for the rest of your lives. The battle had reached its climax. Whether it was Lin Jun or the 4 gods of the secret sect, they were all fighting with all their might. At this point, no one even cared if they were eliminated. The intense battle was earth-shattering. Everyone was injured. Chun Fengxiao's abdomen was cut open, Yi Changtian lost an arm, and Zhao Qingshan was bleeding all over his body. Even Qiu Shuihan, the young married woman, did not gain any benefits. One of her legs had been cut off. Lin Jun was even more seriously injured. There were dozens of wounds all over his body. However, the more he fought, the fiercer and crazier he became. That crazy aura actually forced the 4 gods of the secret sect to retreat step by step. With the strength of his body and his unyielding will, Lin Jun finally fought for a chance for himself. He knew that this battle would not last long. Everything he was doing now was in preparation for his final retreat. The divine infant could not stop Shang Yin for long. If Shang Yin had not been cautious and did not want the divine infant to be injured, Lin Jun would have been defeated by now. Now was his chance. He had to leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would definitely lose this battle. Retreating was easier said than done. However, it was also difficult said than done. The teleportation portal was not far behind him. He had to get there as soon as possible. Lin Jun used all his strength to push back Zhao Qingshan, who had charged in front of him again. Lin Jun was about to retreat. If he left now, Lin Jun's name would resound throughout the primordial realm. He could still retreat after fighting the 5 from the secret sect alone, and he had killed more than 20 hero bannermen. Therefore, even if he lost, it was still a victory for him. But just as he was about to retreat, a figure seemed to break through space and appeared from the darkness. The dazzling saber light flashed. Its speed was inconceivably fast. Lin Jun didn't have the ability to dodge at all. He could only make his doppelganger appear in front of him with a thought. PFFF. Blood splattered everywhere. Lin Jun's avatar, the violet gold god race's Hua Hua, Tai Sui, had its throat slit. However, a doppelganger was a doppelganger. It didn't have a life of its own. Its life was given to it by Lin Jun. As long as Lin Jun didn't die, it would still be alive and kicking after being treated. Sacrificing the doppelganger temporarily saved Lin Jun's life and prevented him from being eliminated. This person's sudden appearance disrupted the rhythm of the scene. Taking advantage of the moment when everyone was stunned, Lin Jun withdrew his divine infant. Lam Modi. Xingyan's eyes narrowed slightly. He was ranked 4th on the Star of Divine Punishment, but among the top 3 warriors, he feared the most. It wasn't Qin Jianfeng or Boston, but this mysterious Lam Modi. This person was shrouded in a black robe and had an ordinary face. He was even the type that couldn't be found in a crowd. However, he was the most terrifying enemy. He hid in the darkness and could use space to hide. His assassination was elusive. Sheng Yin asked himself, even if he stood in Lin Jun's shoes, he definitely wouldn't be able to survive that stunning saber strike just now. Perhaps even Qin Jianfeng wouldn't be able to survive. This was the terrifying part of Lam Modi. The 4 gods of the secret sect were also shocked. However, at this time, Lam Modi suddenly said, "Don't talk nonsense. Let's work together to kill Lin Jun. If you have any questions, ask them later." This sentence reminded the 5 gods of the secret sect. Finally free from the divine infant, Sheng Yin made his move. His name was Sheng Yin, and he really did know a mysterious technique. A multicolored orb appeared above Sheng Yin's head. Sheng Yin dripped a drop of blood onto the orb, causing it to spin rapidly. Streams of black energy appeared around the orb as Sheng Yin quickly spoke to Lin Jun. "With my blood, I bestow upon you weakness, slowness, ordinariness, powerlessness. I will seal your dantian and stabilize your astral energy. From now on, you'll fall into an endless hell and lose all power." Holy word. In the sky, a pillar of light bloomed from the clouds, enveloping Lin Jun. Holy word was his ultimate technique, but it was also a type of curse. Just as he said, those who were hit by this curse would quickly lose all power and become an ordinary person. Compared to Lam Modi's elusive assassination methods, his holy word was just as frightening. In order to ensure the success of Holy Word's curse, Lam Modi and the 4 gods of the secret sect simultaneously rushed toward Lin Jun. They definitely wouldn't give Lin Jun any chance to interrupt Holy Word. As long as Holy Word succeeded, Lin Jun would become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, unable to resist in the slightest. From the beginning of the Star of Divine Punishment until now, such a situation had never happened before. The 4 gods of the secret sect, in addition to Lam Modi and Sheng Yin, the 2 martial artists ranked 3rd and 4th, were all attacking together. Even if Qin Jianfeng was here, he would probably die with a grievance. However, such a powerful lineup was actually all for the sake of dealing with a seriously injured Lin Jun. Everyone watching this scene felt that they were going a bit too far. Fights between martial artists were very normal, but was there a need to bully others like this? A teardrop slid down Ning Qingshuan's jade-like face. She had already stood up, waiting for the moment Lin Jun was eliminated. She would go see Lin Jun and use her gentleness, passion, and everything she had to comfort him and give him warmth. She would also tell him that he was the hero in her heart, forever. Liang Jihuan silently watched all of this, then slightly closed his eyes. Lin Jun, don't blame me. You brought this upon yourself. When you come out, I won't let you have an easy time. I still have some dirt on you. Xian'er is mine. You'll never have her. The people of southern Liang were completely silent. Many of them put their hands together and prayed, hoping for a miracle to happen. In the face of all this, Lin Jun felt his mind clear. Whether it was the four gods of the secret sect or La Modi, they were all moving as slow as snails in his eyes. It was a feeling that everything was in his grasp. Although holy words had already unleashed his ultimate skill, and he might not be able to dodge it, Lin Jun would never allow these people to take advantage of him. You want to kill me? Are you ready to pay the price? Huh. Lin Jun suddenly roared. The roar of the black hole beast was like the roar of a dragon and the roar of a tiger, piercing through the clouds. The mirage sword and yin-yang spear in his hands were gone, as was the seven-star saber. In its place was a black lightning bolt, a pitch-black lightning bolt. In Lin Jun's hands, this lightning bolt was like the sword of a god. However, this sword was too long, reaching deep into the clouds. It was impossible to tell how long it was. At the beginning of heaven and earth, brilliant lightning, divine lightning of destruction, exterminate my enemies. Destroy. His hands fiercely slammed down. The black lightning bolt carried with it a destructive aura. It was as if this sword was going to split heaven and earth in half, from the clouds to the heavens. A gigantic spatial crack tore through space and came crashing down. Rumble. In the face of this earth-shattering attack, the four gods of the secret sect activated a powerful defensive skill. The star power of the four of them gathered and formed a huge protective shield, tightly wrapping around the four of them. The four of them were born in the same year, the same month, and the same day. They had trained together since childhood. Even Qin Jianfeng, or even an immortal, wouldn't be able to easily break through this defensive skill. But today, this law was overturned. The god of annihilation thunder hit the protective shield directly. The ground began to shake and crack. The protective shield was not weak, but it could only hold on for less than 5 seconds. Then it burst like a bubble. The four of them spat out mouthfuls of blood and erupted with astral energy. However, they couldn't withstand the remnant power of the lightning bolt. They were vaporized, then reappeared as blue streaks of light. Next up were Lamodi and Sheng Yin, the third and fourth ranked experts. They did their best to resist. Fortunately, the lightning bolt had already lost most of its power. Even so, they were still sent flying high into the air. When they landed heavily on the ground, their bodies couldn't help but twitch. They were heavily injured, but not dead. Lin Jun was struck by divine words at the same time as his attack. Lin Jun could even feel that his star power was depleting, and it was plummeting. At this time, he saw some martial artists slowly approaching from the distance. They might not dare to touch Lamodi and Sheng Yin, but Lin Jun was definitely dangerous. Someone shouted, "Get rid of Lin Jun, and you'll be able to enter the top 100. One after another, martial artists jumped out from the shadows and charged at Lin Jun with swords and sabers. Lin Jun took a deep breath. A bunch of ants. You won't have such a chance. Ignoring the wounds and weakness on his body, Lin Jun still had a trump card, even though his astral energy was plummeting. Psychic Storm. Lin Jun had learned this move back on Earth. It could only be used against people whose astral energy was far inferior to his own. Now was the perfect time. The Psychic Storm attacked, and the sound of heads exploding filled the air. These martial artists who attempted to ambush him came one after another and were knocked down one after another. They couldn't resist an area of effect attack like the Psychic Storm. Lin Jun also felt dizzy. Seeing that he was about to die, Lin Jun no longer cared about anything else and stepped onto the teleportation formation. Today isn't the end. Sheng Yin, Lamodi, we'll meet again someday. Chapter 710. Lin Jun had teleported away, but the martial artists here didn't stop. On the other side, Lamodi and Sheng Yin were leaning against a destroyed building, gasping for breath between the broken walls. However, no one dared to approach them. They could see that Lin Jun was on the verge of death. If they could catch up to Lin Jun and kill him, they would gain a lot of points. Getting the chance to refine their divine body was no longer a dream. For the chance to refine their divine body, these martial artists were willing to do anything. Although Lin Jun had teleported away, there were too many martial artists here. They called their friends and asked them to find a certain hero bannerman to see if Lin Jun had gone to that war zone. Every continent had 100 war zones, and the 4 continents only had 400 war zones. Just the number of martial artists gathered here alone numbered 70,000 to 80,000. In a situation where they were contacting their friends everywhere, Lin Jun had nowhere to hide. Moreover, Lin Jun had killed too many hero bannermen in this battle. The hero bannermen in other war zones didn't want to let Lin Jun go. Soon, news came back. Lin Jun is in Western Continent's War Zone 1. Large groups of martial artists began teleporting to the Western Continent. Although teleporting between continents would cost half of their points, many of them didn't have that many points to begin with. As long as they could kill Lin Jun, they would get everything back. In Western Continent's War Zone 1, Lin Jun randomly appeared somewhere in the city. The first thing he did was to go straight to the teleportation portal. His luck wasn't bad. The place he appeared wasn't far from the teleportation portal. In addition, it would take time for others to find him. Before a large group of martial artists arrived to kill him, he teleported again. Once again, he spent half of his points to go to the northern continent. He knew that he couldn't stay here. If he did, he wouldn't be able to leave. On the map, he could even see some hero bannermen rushing toward the teleportation portal. Lin Jun felt weak and powerless. The feeling of losing his strength made him feel extremely uncomfortable. After killing the 4 gods of the secret sect, Lin Jun had entered the top 20 of the rankings. However, after 2 continents teleported, he fell out of the top 200. This was not the end of it. As soon as he arrived at the northern continent, he went to the transmission array to wait. Soon, he discovered that there were other cultivators chasing after him. Once again, he teleported from battle zone number 1 to battle zone number 11. His points were reduced by another 10th. Lin Jun gritted his teeth and went from the 11th battle zone to the 100th battle zone. 5 minutes later, Lin Jun teleported again, this time to the southern continent. He would rather spend all his points to get rid of his pursuers. As long as he could survive, there was a possibility of safety. In the southern Liang Imperial Palace, La Xia quietly observed Lin Jun's situation. Because Lin Jun's situation would be broadcasted throughout southern Liang, all southern Liang citizens would be able to see it. Since La Xia and Liang Jihuan were together, they would naturally be able to see Lin Jun's situation. If he saw it, so did Lam Modi. Then, Lam Modi would notify the others to chase after Lin Jun. Therefore, no matter how far Lin Jun ran, he would not be able to escape from his sight. Only the Cannon Clan's martial artists could cheat through this kind of method. This kid is really good at running. In such a short time, he has already gone to 3 continents. But it's about time. His ranking has fallen out of the top 10,000. If he continues to run, he will lose all his points. Let's see how he can run then. Liang Jihuan nodded slightly. That's right. You can use the number I gave you to contact the southern Liang's cultivators in the Star of God's Punishment and order them to chase after Lin Jun. Okay, but if they succeed, you still have to give me my share of the money. Don't worry. After all, I am the emperor. I still have this bit of credibility. While La Xia was watching Lin Jun's escape route, Lam Modi was notifying the southern Liang's cultivators in the Star of God's Punishment. These cultivators were Liang Jihuan's subordinates. They had already been told to follow Lam Modi's orders. As long as Lam Modi gave the secret signal, they would obey him unconditionally. More and more cultivators were left behind by Lin Jun. This Lin Jun was too cunning. He never stayed in one place for long. They chased after him here and there, but they didn't even see Lin Jun's shadow. Instead, they had almost used up all their points. Many people calmed down. They felt that it wasn't their turn to chase after Lin Jun, so they gradually gave up. However, there was a group of people who could always catch up with Lin Jun. Almost as soon as Lin Jun arrived, they would arrive immediately. Lin Jun was even intercepted by them once. If it weren't for the fact that he could barely use his spiritual power, Lin Jun would have been finished. The cultivators who chased after him didn't have any nationality or war zone insignia. They had been covered, so he couldn't tell where they were from. However, Lin Jun instinctively felt that these people were from the southern Liang. People from other countries didn't need to be covered. Although he didn't know what the problem was, it didn't matter. The important thing was that Lin Jun's points were about to disappear. Currently, he had 2 points. He was ranked last in the entire star of God's punishment. Lin Jun's points ranking was more than 435 million. Last place. After another teleportation, Lin Jun returned to the eastern continent. His points were now 1. Only 1 point left. Can I still teleport? Lin Jun was almost lying on the shield as he arrived in front of the teleportation formation of the third war zone of the eastern continent. Soon, he saw his pursuers appear again. Several masked men came in front of Lin Jun. "Ha! Lin Jun, why didn't you run? You have no points left. What do you think you can run to? We brothers will take turns to chase you. We can easily consume your points." "Lin Jun, you were too arrogant. You offended people you shouldn't have offended. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you have a little bit of fighting power? There are too many people who can kill you. You should be thankful that this is the star of God's punishment. Otherwise, you would have died instead of being eliminated." Lin Jun took a deep breath as he looked at the martialists who were walking over. "I know who you listen to, but please tell Liang Jihuan that he will never get what he wants." "What nonsense are you talking about? What we have to do with Liang Jihuan?" The warrior still tried to cover it up. Lin Jun sneered. A burst of mental strength suddenly burst forth and tore off the cloth covering the martial artist's chest, revealing the insignia of Nan Liang. Teleport. Lin Jun gave it one last try. He didn't know if he could teleport out with 1 point, but he was already at the end of his rope. If he didn't try, he would be eliminated. Something unexpected happened. Lin Jun's last point disappeared. His points became 0, and he disappeared from the teleportation formation again. The warriors from southern Liang stood there in a daze. They wanted to wait for Lam Modi's call, but Lam Modi's phone didn't ring. In the Yuan realm, all images of Lin Jun suddenly disappeared. No one could find Lin Jun's whereabouts, nor did they know where he had gone. However, looking at the names on the overall rankings, Lin Jun was still at the bottom of the rankings. The Mr. Zero for back then was still at the bottom of the rankings. He firmly held onto his position at the bottom, and no one could shake his position. Some warriors even attempted to use Lin Jun's method to teleport away with their last point, but they realized that their last point couldn't be teleported away. This was because there was no decimal point, so points couldn't be deducted. Therefore, they couldn't go anywhere. No one knew where Lin Jun went. He had disappeared just like that. Instead, on the Southern Liang forums, the citizens of Southern Liang were in an uproar. His Majesty the Emperor had personally sent people to hunt down his own citizens. Those people had clearly been notified, which was why they were able to follow Lin Jun's footsteps. They deliberately covered their chests because they knew that they could be seen from outside. The citizens who didn't dare speak up before were now agitated. F***CK. What the hell is going on? Why is His Majesty hunting down Lin Jun? Ha ha ha. What I just see? This is a big joke. Is there a monarch who doesn't want a hero to appear in his country? Lin Jun is fighting so well in there. Instead of helping him, you're hunting him down. Is there something wrong with your brain? This is really disappointing. The hero is fighting for his life in the Star of Divine Punishment, but His Majesty the Emperor is stabbing him in the back. This never happened when the old emperor was still alive. Why is there such a big difference between a father and son? Lin Jun even saved your son. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Could it be that the rumors are true? That His Majesty the Emperor can't stand it anymore? This kind of thing was scary when someone took the lead. When the first person came out to oppose the Emperor, there would be more people coming out one after another. Some of them might be the Emperor's political enemies and had ulterior motives, but most people couldn't stand it. It wasn't easy for such a genius to appear in Southern Liang. Why did the Emperor want to kill him? Even if there was a personal grudge, he shouldn't vent it in front of such a big issue. For a moment, the imperial family was in a terrible fix. Liang Jihuan was the first emperor in Southern Liang history to be at the center of the storm. A large number of administrators went online and started to clean up the posts, trying to stop the public from talking. But how could they really stop it? A large number of groups supporting Lin Jun appeared among the people, asking for an explanation from the emperor. These groups had strong supporters behind them. They were so powerful that they couldn't be solved in a short time. At this time, Liang Jihuan didn't even dare to release any negative information about Lin Jun. Because Lin Jun couldn't be found now, he would probably be killed if he released any negative information. The only way was to go all the way and eliminate Lin Jun first. Although Lin Jun was in last place, Liang Jihuan was still worried. He wanted to know where Lin Jun went. Chapter 711. The Star of God's Punishment had 4 continents and an ocean surrounding the continents. However, it also had 2 poles. Before the planet was punished by God, there was a legend that there was a pure land on this planet. There was no sorrow, no joy, no life, and no destruction. This pure land was now under Lin Jun. The fragrance of the soil came from under him. Lin Jun slowly woke up from his coma. Maybe he hadn't woken up yet. He was in a half-awake state. Where am I? Am I still on the Star of God's Punishment? Have I been eliminated? Did I succeed in the last teleportation? But I don't remember locking on to a continent or a region. So where did I go? Chaotic thoughts assaulted Lin Jun's mind. Lin Jun felt his head hurt. He wanted to open his eyes, but he couldn't. I can't. I was hit by the holy word technique. I've lost all my star power. My spirit power is also deteriorating. I'm no different from an ordinary person now. Lin Jun felt cold in his heart. He had lost his power. What hope did he have? His mind was in a trance. Lin Jun, an ethereal voice, came from afar. It seemed to come from the sky, but it also seemed to be right next to his ear. This voice seemed to have some kind of magic. It calmed down his restless heart instantly. Lin Jun, why are you so sad? He couldn't tell whether the voice was male or female. He couldn't find the direction. Lin Jun didn't have the ability to find the source of the voice. However, he was willing to talk to this voice. I've lost my power. He didn't speak with his mouth. Instead, he spoke with his mind. However, everything was so natural and harmonious. Where does your power come from? The voice continued to ask. Power comes from cultivation. Then why don't you complain that you didn't cultivate enough? Why are you sad that you lost your power? Lin Jun was stunned. He found it hard to answer this question. He wanted to say that he had wasted 700 years. However, on second thought, it was useless. If he had the ability, he wouldn't have been trapped for 700 years. You're sad because you don't have enough power. You're sad because you've wasted time. You think you've worked hard enough, but the end result isn't satisfactory. But do you know how many people are envious of your achievements? How many people were still struggling to survive? How many people will think that you're high and mighty, unreachable? I'll give you a perspective. Perhaps this time, you'll be able to calm down a little. Light flashed in front of his eyes, and Lin Jun suddenly discovered that he could see. He didn't have a physical body, but his gaze could pierce through time and space, seeing things that he couldn't see in the past. The sky was blue. White clouds were drifting, blue waves were rippling, a gentle breeze was blowing, and birds were chirping and flowers were fragrant. The sweet smell in the air seemed to be within reach. The fragrance of the soil, the familiar landscape, and the warm sunlight all told Lin Jun that this was the new territories, this was the Milky Way, and this was Earth, capital base city. In front of a huge sinkhole, a group of adventurers had just finished a battle. This team was led by a level 9 warlord, and there were several low-level warlords around him. Several people leaned against the edge of the sinkhole, holding dry food in their hands and gnawing on it with difficulty. The situation wasn't optimistic. There were mutant beasts wandering in the distance, and several of them were injured. They could be wiped out here at any time. However, Lin Jun couldn't see the disappointment, pain, and sadness in their eyes. Everyone's eyes were firm, and the captain was still cheering for the team members. Everyone, work hard in a while and try to get rid of the mutant Wolf King. As long as we kill this mutant beast, we can rush out of here and get a lot of money. I've already planned it. As soon as we get the money, we'll follow the footsteps of Lord Lin Jun and go to the Sky River Empire to develop. Yeah, that's what we all think too. Yes, Captain, we all have the Lord as our goal. The captain nodded with relief. Everyone is right. The Lord is the hero of our Milky Way galaxy. He's been guiding us forward. Every day before I go to sleep, I pray devoutly that one day I can make the great leap and go to the Yuan realm to see this legendary figure with my own eyes. Come on, Captain. You're about to advance to the Warlord realm. After that, the Star realm won't be far away. There will definitely be a chance. Looking at these Warlord realm martial artists, Lin Jun wanted to laugh, but he couldn't. After the Warlord realm was the Warlord realm, then the Star realm, Meteor realm, Comet realm, Satellite realm, Planet realm, Star realm, Black hole realm, Galaxy realm, Star field realm, Astral realm, and Longevity realm. If they wanted to come to the Yuan realm, they had to wait until the gate of heaven ended. Unless they had the opportunity to cultivate to the peak of World King and live forever, they wouldn't be able to see the gate of heaven. Such a long and distant road of cultivation. Lin Jun's heart palpitated just thinking about it. But these martial artists didn't have the slightest bit of fear. Lin Jun could say that they were newborn calves that weren't afraid of tigers, but he especially appreciated this kind of courage. The scene changed. The next moment, it was an unfamiliar planet. In a treehouse, a beautiful elf girl walked in with medicine and slowly fed the injured male elf on the bed. Big brother Tia, you have to be strong. The temporary collapse of your star power isn't a dead end. You're still young and have a future. The male elf nodded. Yes, I haven't given up hope. I want to wait until my body is better. Then I'll go to the Fire Chilin Empire and see Lin Jun's hometown. Then I'll go to the Sagittarius constellation and see the space where he's trapped. A person who can persist for 700 years must have a firm mind. He's a role model for me to learn from. The universe is so big. There will always be a way to cure me. I firmly believe in this. The elf girl excitedly threw herself at the man, and the two of them kissed passionately. The view changed. Lin Jun saw that there was actually a full-body portrait of him on the wall. This elf was actually his admirer. The next scene was a young man on the blue sea planet in the Sun territory practicing his spear. There were sandbags tied to the yard, wooden dummies standing there, and even a plum blossom pile on the ground. The young man stepped on the plum blossom pile and took a step forward. The spear in his hand danced, creating a series of spear shadows. When the dance reached a certain degree, the surroundings were already filled with spear shadows. Another person walked over and poured a basin of water over his head. The spear in the young man's hand spun like a windmill, isolating most of the water droplets from the spear light. However, a drop of water fell on his chest. Lin Jun could see that he was trying to comprehend immovable mountain, but failed. However, the young man wasn't depressed at all. Instead, he said excitedly, I succeeded. I only missed a drop of water this time. I believe that it won't be long before I can learn the Lord's ultimate skill, immovable mountain. Back then, he used this move to sweep through everything, killing countless enemies and making them tremble in fear. Lin Jun knew that the last step of a movable mountain was the most difficult to comprehend. The young man still had a long way to go. However, looking at this youthful face, Lin Jun sincerely hoped that he could succeed. The next scene was in the primordial realm. An alchemist was painstakingly researching the composition and method of a pill. Lin Jun recognized the pill. It was actually his energy-gathering powder. Master, you really are a master. I'm afraid I won't be able to refine such a pill in my lifetime. However, I won't give up. Master Lin Jun, one day, I hope to worship you as my master. The next scene was in the capital of Southern Liang. A group of young people prayed for Lin Jun in the Temple of Immortals. They prayed for the hero of Southern Liang to return safely, even if Lin Jun didn't have the chance to get the top few spots in the Star of Divine Punishment. As long as he was safe, that was enough. Lin Jun didn't know how to express his feelings towards these young faces that he didn't recognize at all. Images jumped one after another. Lin Jun had seen almost all kinds of people in the human world. He saw all kinds of people, men and women, the new realm and the primordial realm, the elderly and the children. Too many people had him as their goal and idol. They either wanted to learn his alchemy skills or watch his battle videos. He had countless admirers and countless supporters. There were people who were in desperate straits, but because of Lin Zhen's existence, they had hope. Looking at these scenes from a god's perspective, Lin Zhen suddenly felt a little ashamed. It turned out that, unknowingly, he had already reached such heights. Lin Zhen, do you still feel sad? That voice appeared again. Lin Zhen was silent for a moment. No, I'm not sad. I was a little emotional before, but I've calmed down a lot now. That's for the best. When you've truly let go of these negative emotions, you can wake up. Wake up. Lin Zhen was stunned for a moment. Then he closed his eyes slightly. He had been in a coma all this time. In just a moment, Lin Zhen's consciousness had already returned to his body. His eyelids moved rhythmically. He was about to wake up. So fast. For the first time, that voice had an emotional fluctuation. Why slow? This is the star of God's punishment. Even if I lose, I won't really lose my power. At most, I'll lose my ranking and points. If I can't even see through these things, I won't be qualified to continue. After saying that, Lin Zhen suddenly opened his eyes. A gust of cold wind blew over, making him even more clear-headed. He was now in a dark and deep cave. Reluctantly standing up, Lin Zhen ignored the weakness of his body and walked out of the cave step by step. Outside the cave, it was a vast expanse of white between heaven and earth. The heavy snow seemed to cover the entire world. As far as the eye could see, there was no end to it. It was as if he was the only living person between heaven and earth. What is this place? Chapter 712. Test. That's right, it's a test. Lin Zhen, if you hadn't been sent to the Pure Land, you would have been eliminated by now. In fact, the test had already begun the moment you arrived here. Lin Zhen looked at the boundless snow outside and nodded gently. If you can't calm your mind, you won't be able to pass this test. I've already tested you just now, and I'm very satisfied with your performance. However, the next test won't be so simple. What's the test? The Pure Land is located in the northernmost part of the star of God's punishment. It's extremely cold here. Winter lasts for 10 months in a year. Spring, summer, and autumn only last for 2 months. Winter has just begun here. If you can survive this long winter, you'll pass the test. Lin Zhen was stunned. Was it that simple? If it was just one winter, he would be able to pass it by cultivating once. Don't think it's that simple. Don't forget your current state. You've been cursed by the holy word technique. Unless you're eliminated, it's very difficult to lift the holy word technique in the star of God's punishment. Now, you're just an ordinary person. You can't use your astral power or mental power. I'm afraid you can't even pick up the weapon you used before. Lin Zhen secretly used his astral power and found that he really couldn't use it. Inside his dantian, the dark star space was lifeless. He couldn't use even the slightest bit of energy. Even his mental power couldn't be used. The divine infant was curled up in his spiritual sea, as if it had fallen into a deep sleep. His mental power wasn't under his control either. Also, he couldn't control his elemental power now. He wanted to use some fire power to protect himself from the cold, but he couldn't do it now. What a powerful curse. Moreover, my body is weakened a lot. I can't use the black hole beast transformation anymore. Right now, I'm not much stronger than an ordinary person, let alone a martial artist. At most, I can only be considered a strong man. He couldn't even open his interspatial ring now, and he couldn't take out the food inside. Have you seen it clearly? Everything about you has been sealed. You can't use it for the time being. What you need to do now is to rely on yourself, your body, and wisdom to survive the long winter here. Please remember, the Pure Land isn't necessarily safe. There's no human scheming here, but there's natural selection. The cold and wild beasts are your fatal enemies. I'm leaving, Lin Zhen. If I can still see you after 10 months, you've passed the test. I wish you good luck. Just as his voice was about to disappear, Lin Zhen hurriedly said, So what if I pass the test? What's the reward? You'll know when the time comes. Passing the test is the greatest reward. The voice disappeared. No matter what Lin Zhen asked, it would not appear again. Things are going to be difficult this time. Lin Zhen stood at the entrance of the cave. The cave he was in was located halfway up a mountain. The entire mountain peak was covered in white snow. Here was the only place where he could see some rocks and soil. A wolf howls came from the distance. Lin Jun could even see a string of black dots. Hundreds of snow wolves were rushing over through the wind and snow. No food, no fire seed, no weapons, only cold, hunger, and wild beasts. His first night in the Pure Land was going to be a tough one. Ever since Lin Jun's disappearance, the Star of Divine Punishment had undergone a great change. La Modi and Sheng Yin suffered heavy injuries after being struck by the thunder of annihilation. The destructive force invaded their bodies. They didn't dare to recklessly fight back. They could only resist and expel the destructive force bit by bit. As a result, their points came to a standstill. Fortunately, they both had powerful concealment methods. Otherwise, they would have been hunted down. They gave up their third and fourth spots and were replaced by others. The current leaderboard was as follows. First place, Qin Jianfeng of the Western Continent. Second place, Boston of the Southern Continent. Third place, Jun Mo of the Western Continent. Fourth place, Feng Qingwan of the Northern Continent. Fifth place, after 3 months, La Modi and Sheng Yin fell out of the top 50. Along with the passage of time, the number of people on the Star of God Punishment became fewer and fewer. From the initial 10 billion people, there are only 100 million now, and it was still decreasing. To end the Star of Divine Punishment, one condition had to be met. The number of undead creatures had to be less than the number of humans. Because it was getting harder and harder to find people, the fights between the martial artists gradually decreased. The martial artists shifted their focus to the undead creatures, especially those at the top of the leaderboard. They hunted undead creatures everywhere. As long as the number of undead creatures was less than the number of humans, their positions would be stabilized. When the Star of Divine Punishment ended, they would be able to obtain a spot to refine their divine body. But there were exceptions. For example, Feng Qingwan, the saintess of the Phoenix clan who killed her way up from the bottom 100. Amidst the ruins, Feng Qingwan gently stroked the long sword in her hand. Her flame-like long dress was particularly eye-catching in this land of death. There was still the smell of blood around her. Just a moment ago, she had found a small warrior team and eliminated all 20 or so people in the team. These people didn't have many points. The highest ranking was less than 1,000,000 points. In fact, they weren't worth killing. The points gained from killing them were less than a fraction of her own points. Ring. The phone rang. Feng Qingwan picked it up and glanced at it. The caller was Junimo, young master. What's the matter? Qingwan, what are you doing? The battle just ended. Qingwan, several old friends have called me. What you've done recently is a bit too much. Why did you kill those martial artists at the bottom of the leaderboard? Those martial artists didn't even get as many points as killing a high-level undead. In the past 3 months, too many people have expressed their anger to me. You should know that you're not only representing yourself, but also the entire Phoenix clan. Young master, I don't understand. Since you've come to the Star of God's Punishment, don't be afraid of fighting. If you're afraid of being eliminated, it's better to kill yourself early. If anyone still nags you, you can directly push the responsibility to me and let them come to me for revenge. You don't have to bear any burden. Why don't you listen to me? You're not afraid of ordinary people, but are the people from the secret sect so easy to deal with? Although Sheng Yin hasn't come out yet, once he comes out, you're definitely not his opponent. Although you're ranked 4th, this ranking is obtained by killing too many low-level martial artists. It doesn't mean that your strength is really enough to rank 4th. Then let him come. I also want to meet him. Luana, what the hell do you want? Junimo was a little angry. Nothing, I just want to kill someone. Also, don't call me Luan. It's such an intimate name. Find someone else to call me young master. Feng Qingwan directly hung up the phone and then touched the sword in her hand. Killing. Continue. As long as the number of undead creatures is not less than that of humans, the Star of God's Punishment will not end. Lin Jun, I hope you can come back soon. I'm afraid I can't hold on for too long. Asterisk, 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 crack. The neck of a snow wolf was twisted by Lin Jun. Blood oozed out of the fur and fell on the snow, leaving a little red plum blossom. Sitting down in the snow, Lin Jun gasped for breath. On the ground, there were already more than a dozen snow wolves lying in a mess. These wolves were as big as calves, and their teeth were extremely sharp. Lin Jun fought with them for more than 10 minutes, and his body was already covered with wounds. Fortunately, his fighting awareness was very good, and he never let the snow wolves attack his vital parts. This was a self-protection awareness that was honed after hundreds of millions of battles. If it was an ordinary person, even if his body was strong, it was impossible to kill more than a dozen snow wolves. Lin Jun held a stone in his hand, which was sharpened. He found it in the cave and used it as a temporary weapon. He cut the skin of a snow wolf with the edge of the stone. In this cold weather, the bodies of these snow wolves would become stiff in less than 5 minutes. He had to drink the blood and eat the meat while it was hot. Gulp, gulp. After drinking a few mouthfuls of warm blood, Lin Jun felt that there was a warm flow in his extremely tired body, which made him feel a little better. He tore his clothes and wrapped the wounds hastily. Lin Jun's body was covered with a layer of wolf skin, which was the coat he made for himself. He had spent 3 months in the Pure Land. Over the past 3 months, Lin Jun's body had more than 1,000 scars. It was as if layers upon layers of scars were covering his body. Without medicine, without timely food, and without a strong recovery ability, these wounds would not heal at all in the cold weather. To be able to last for 3 months was almost a miracle of life. At first, Lin Jun thought that with his fighting experience and hunting prey to maintain his life, he should be able to survive for 10 months, but he later found that he was too naive. In this place without fire, it was impossible for humans to survive for a long time. Lifting his arm, many wounds were bleeding pus and blood, and a sharp pain was attacking his nerves. "Chris, can you still calculate?" This was Lin Jun's only comfort. Chris could still accompany him through this long winter. "Master, I lack energy right now. If you don't give me energy, I will automatically shut down after 5 minutes. Calculating also consumes energy, so I can only last for 3 minutes. I don't have energy to supply you for the time being. 3 minutes is also good. Then calculate for me how long I can last in this state." "Well, the only source of food here is Arctic wolves and polar bears. Master, your speed of obtaining food is getting slower and slower, and your wounds continue to be infected. According to the current speed, you will die in about 25 days. I can only last for 25 days. Yes, and this is under the condition that I accompany you. You know, sometimes loneliness can also deprive people of their life. Master, my power is about to run out. Before that, I will give you one last piece of advice. If you want to survive these 10 months, you must find a hope, a motivation that can support you to live. Then you may be able to last a little longer. Beep, beep, beep." Chapter 713. Dragging the dead body of a wolf. Lin Jun returned to the cave. He cut off a piece of meat, and before it was completely frozen, he started to eat it raw. In order to survive, this little bit of suffering was nothing for a warrior. However, Lin Jun's heart was getting heavier and heavier. He couldn't even taste the smell of the wolf meat in his mouth. His pressure didn't come from the disgusting food, the cold, or the scars. It came from the loneliness. If it continued like this, his body wouldn't be able to hold on for long. However, Lin Jun hadn't found a way to support himself. He couldn't find a flame here, and he couldn't find a warm place to heal his wounds. Chris had analyzed that he had less than a month to live. If he wanted to survive, he had to stimulate his potential. It wasn't easy to stimulate the potential of life. There had to be something that could give him strength. Lin Jun was very clear about this. As the night fell, the howling of wolves came from the distant snowfield again. This time, the night was especially long. Lin Jun had even eaten up the blood of the wolf, but it was still dark outside. Besides the wolves and bears, there were also fast deer on the snowfield. However, Lin Jun couldn't catch them. Only the wolves, which were aggressive, could become his food. In the past, in the dark, the snowfield was extremely cold. The wind was howling, and the snow was falling. Lin Jun could only curl up and shiver in the cave. However, this time, Lin Jun didn't want to stay in the cave anymore. He wanted to go out and see the world in the dark. If he stayed here, he could only wait for death. If he was going to die, he might as well go and see the places he had never seen before. This time, the long night came. If he wasn't wrong, it should be the polar night. The polar night was the coldest time in the polar regions. It could last for several months. He couldn't wait for death here. Since that voice told me that this place was the northernmost part of the star of God's punishment, it should be similar to the North Pole on Earth. There should be a North Pole. Go to the North Pole instead of staying in a cave sheltered from the wind. This was an incomparably difficult decision. Very few people dared to walk out of the relatively warm cave into the pitch-black snowy night in search of an unknown hope. Lin Jun wrapped the wolf pelt tightly around his body. This time, he did not head towards the snowy plains in front of the cave. He saw that the snow wolves and other animals were all heading towards the back of the cave, so the other side of the mountain should be even further north. The cold stone in his hand gave him some strength. Dragging his battered body, Lin Jun began to climb the mountain. What did you say? The Empress is missing? Liang Jihuan was stunned when he heard Shi Xiaomao's report. Your Majesty, she is not missing. The Empress left the palace 3 months ago. It's just that we were all kept in the dark. No one knew. Saying this, Shi Xiaomao took out a video from 3 months ago. It was the second day after Lin Jun went missing. Ning Qingxian closed the palace gates, saying that she was going to cultivate and would not see anyone. At the time, she also informed Liang Jihuan. Liang Jihuan did not say much. As long as Ning Qingxian was still there, it was fine. But unexpectedly, Ning Qingxian left the palace that day. The guard were stopped by her from afar. Only a high-powered camera in a corner recorded the scene of Ning Qingxian leaving. She rode her 5-colored deer and left the palace alone. Later on, there was another scene of Ning Qingxian appearing. It was recorded by a planetary explorer. Ning Qingxian rode the deer through the cosmos, heading straight for the depths of the Milky Way. No one knew what she was doing. The endless sea of stars. She went to the endless sea of stars? Liang Jihuan did not say a word for a long time. Although the endless sea of stars was also the primordial realm, to the people of the primordial realm, the endless sea of stars was another world. It was filled with danger and the unknown. There were even alien races. The people living on the surface were afraid of the endless sea of stars. That place was too vast. What was Ning Qingxian doing there? After some thought, Liang Jihuan asked Shi Xiaomao, "Have you found any clues?" Your Majesty, the day before the Empress left, she seemed to have read a lot of information. She even borrowed books from the royal library. They were all star maps. She seemed to be searching for some planet, but as for which planet, I have no idea. Liang Jihuan's expression turned uglier the more he heard. Finally, he grunted coldly. There's no need to guess. She was searching for the star of divine punishment. What? How can the star of divine punishment be found? Shi Xiaomao was alarmed. Nothing in this world is difficult for those who set their mind to it. Since she dared to go out, she might have found some clues. However, I don't understand. So what if she found the star of divine punishment? Don't tell me you can find the missing Lin Jun? Shi Xiaomao did not say a word. This topic was not easy to answer. Was Her Majesty going to cheat on him? We have to find the Empress. Liang Jihuan's tone was resolute and decisive. Then, he closed his eyes and said, "This is something that ordinary people can't do. Go to the Green Leaf sect and invite the Empress's master, Aunt Tai, over. Now, only her master can find the Empress and shock her." "Yes, Your Majesty." Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Another month had passed since the battle on the Star of Divine Punishment. Of the 100 million people a month ago, there were only about 30 million left. They were evenly distributed to the 400 small war zones. Each war zone had less than 100,000 people. Compared to the 100 million people a war zone had back then, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. Jun Mo, who had just killed a few undead knights, picked up the phone. "I am Qin Jianfeng." "Ah, so it's Great Qin's crown prince. Hello, may I know why you're looking for me?" "Jun Mo, your Fire Phoenix clan's territory borders Great Qin. We are neighbors, so we could be considered neighbors. In this battle on the Star of Divine Punishment, I did not take the initiative to kill your Phoenix clan's people. However, you better restrain your saintess. I don't care how presumptuous she is, but she can't attack Great Qin's martial artists. This is forcing me to take action. Ah, Qingwan actually attacked Great Qin's martial artists? That's right. Just now, she ambushed one of our teams and killed hundreds of people. Jun and Mo, I don't like to kill women. However, if there's a next time, I hope you can make a decision and not bring trouble to your Phoenix clan. After hanging up the phone, Junmo's face was gloomy. It was true that he liked Feng Qingwan, but he was also the young master of the Phoenix clan. For the benefit of the whole clan, he couldn't let her continue like this. Lin Jun stabbed the rock in his hand into the ice and snow. Using this as leverage, he finally climbed over the last mountain. Holding onto the edge of the mountain, Lin Jun poked his head out. Night, it was still night. However, this night was different from the past. On the horizon, green, blue, and cyan lights shone down from the sky and landed on the ground in the distance. Aurora. This was the northern lights. Different from the aurora on Earth, these lights seemed to land on the same spot. No matter how the sky twisted, they would land on the same spot. What is that? What's attracting the aurora? Lin Jun grabbed a mouthful of ice and snow from the ground and put it in his mouth. The cold made his lips numb, and his hands and mouth were covered with cracked frostbites. The wounds had already started to fester, proving that his body's condition was extremely poor. His skin had an unhealthy greenish hue, and he was almost frozen stiff. Lin Jun could not even feel his blood flowing. But he persevered. Chris said that he could only persevere for 25 days, but he persevered for a month. In a month's time, he walked out of the vast snow mountain and saw the northern lights. Perhaps there would be some surprises waiting for him under the northern lights. He stumbled forward. The ground was no longer snow, but thick ice. When he stepped on it, one of his toes broke easily, making a crisp sound of bone breaking. Lin Jun did not feel it all. He continued to move forward expressionlessly. He had suffered too many injuries, so he did not care whether it was more or less. He walked on this road for more than 10 days. When the scene where the northern lights landed appeared in front of him, Lin Jun was so cold that he could not even blink. There was a thick layer of frost all over his body. When he walked, there was even a clicking sound like a robot. Bathed in the aurora, Lin Jun looked at the extremely beautiful flowers on the ground. It was a snow lotus. The beauty of this flower exceeded the concept of ordinary flowers. It was as if it was made of ice and snow. There were traces of light flowing on it. Although it had not bloomed, it was already breathtakingly beautiful. Ice, light, these two types of elemental energy have actually reached the pinnacle on this flower. When he reached the side of the flower, Lin Jun felt extremely cold. His internal organs were about to be frozen. The aurora slowly flowed on the flower bud. The pure light element made Lin Jun palpitate. It's too beautiful. This flower is simply gathering the essence of heaven and earth, extreme and cold, combined with this pure light element. This represents the pinnacle of these two powers. One is the speed of light. The other is absolute zero. Since I'm here, I must ensure that this flower blooms smoothly. As for whether or not I can comprehend the power of ice and light, that will depend on my fate. Lin Jun quickly found an excuse for himself. He must see the day this magical snow lotus bloomed. If he did not see that scene, he would not die. A crack appeared on the ice surface. A twisting ice silkworm appeared. Its target was the snow lotus. It quickly crawled over. Just as it approached, an ice sculpture beside the snow lotus suddenly moved. A piece of rock ruthlessly smashed the ice silkworm onto the ice surface. Before the ice silkworm died, it fiercely bit the person. A powerful poison was injected, but the person who was like an ice sculpture remained motionless. Breathing technique. This was a skill that only martial artists who had just started learning martial arts. Now, it had become Lin Jun's life-saving method. Using one breath to protect his heart, Lin Jun did not care about the pain on his body. He would wait here, protect, and wait for the moment the flower bloomed. Chapter 714. Lin Jun had no idea how he had survived the past few months. When he was hungry, he would eat some frozen snow animals. When he was thirsty, he would grab a handful of snow and melt in his mouth. Hope was a magical thing. Crazy had said that he could only persist for 25 days, but he had already persisted for more than 6 months, including the 3 months before this. It had been almost 10 months since he had been here. In other words, the Pure Land's winter was coming to an end. Just by relying on his unyielding willpower, Lin Jun was able to stay alive like a living dead. Whenever something threatened the snow lotus, he would miraculously take action and continue to protect it with his meager strength. An aurora fell from the sky and landed on the snow lotus as well as Lin Jun's body. The speed of light is almost the pinnacle of speed, but this aurora is different. It looks like wind and clouds. It's slow, but it's the purest light. Lin Jun's eyes kept moving along with the movement of the aurora. He seemed to be enlightened. There are 2 types of martial artist speed. One is their attack speed, and the other is their movement speed. It's usually easier to master the attack speed in short distances than the movement speed. However, I haven't made a breakthrough in this aspect. What's the profundity of light? How can I make my attack speed as fast as lightning and be 1 step ahead of others? The fastest person that Lin Jun had ever seen was Ning Qingxian. When they were blocking the Eternium planet, Ning Qingxian had attacked with an extremely fast and powerful sword, causing the planet to deviate from its orbit. It was difficult to attack without the speed of light. However, Ning Qingxian was a super martial artist who was about to break through to immortal level at that time. Amongst those at the level of world kings, the fastest person Lin Jun had ever seen was Lamodi. When Lin Jun maintained his star force at 14 million stars, Lin Jun hadn't been able to dodge Lamodi's sneak attack, and his avatar had been cut down by a saber strike. To Lin Jun, Lamodi's attack was almost at the speed of light. This was the power of a high-speed attack, and it was very difficult for others to resist. Lin Jun tried to move his hands slowly, but his speed was ridiculously slow. His arms were so stiff that it was impossible for a normal person to move. However, he still stubbornly followed the swaying of the aurora. This was a kind of obsession. His heartbeat was getting weaker and weaker. He was already at his limit. The voice that he had not heard for a long time appeared at this moment. Lin Jun, you've already exceeded my expectations and persisted for more than 9 months. The polar winter is about to pass, but are you unable to persist any longer? Her voice carried a demonic nature, directly entering Lin Jun's soul, full of temptation. If you feel tired, then take a rest. Lie down beside the snow lotus and fall asleep with the fragrance of the flower. Perhaps in your dreams, you will be able to see the moment when the flowers bloom. Lin Jun's body swayed slightly, as if he had heard it, but also as if he hadn't. Take a rest. If you take a rest, the winter will be over and you'll be able to return safely to the battle zone on the star of God's punishment. Why do you have to suffer like this? I have prepared food and medicinal herbs for you. Take a rest, and someone will come to treat you soon. Lin Jun's current appearance could only be described as tragic. His entire body was covered in ulcers and pus, and the pus had even frozen on the outside of his body. His body could only be described as riddled with holes. This shouldn't even be the body of a living being. Even wild dogs wouldn't eat him if he was thrown on the side of the road. Food and medicinal herbs. To such a person, how great of a temptation was that? Lin Jun seemed to be moved, but he refused to answer this person. I know what you're doing. You're trying to comprehend the true meaning of light, but I advise you not to waste your energy. You're just a small domain monarch, and you don't even have any strength left. If you continue like this, there will be no results. Why don't I give you a hint so that you can comprehend the power of light smoothly? Lin Jun's body trembled. He had worked so hard just to comprehend the power of light, but he didn't expect this voice to say that it could give him a hint. Could it be that he had passed the test? Had he passed the 9 months of suffering? After a long while, Lin Jun spoke slowly. Is this also part of the test? The people of the world are stupid, but they always try to guess the thoughts of the gods. Those who don't know how to seize the opportunity in front of them are the stupidest. Lin Jun, what do you think? The people of the world are indeed stupid, but I believe that there is no free lunch in the world. Lin Jun resisted the waves of dizziness. I'm just a person who is about to die, and I don't have much value. However, you have given me such generous conditions, so I can't help but suspect something. Don't talk about the gods. In the eyes of martial artists, the gods are just stronger martial artists. Maybe there is something I don't know, but I dare say that if I really do as you wish and rest, then my life will come to an end. If you didn't appear, I might not have thought of some things. But now, I feel that I must persevere. Just like what I originally thought, I must wait for the flower to bloom. This flower can grow here, and I have protected it for so long. How can I give it up? Lin Jun's stubbornness seemed to have angered the voice. Stubborn. Unfortunately, you won't be able to persevere until then. A gust of wind blew over, and the temperature plummeted once again. Ice and snow rapidly gathered, turning Lin Jun into a real ice sculpture. He couldn't move at all. It was as if his body was sealed in an ice coffin. An intense cold assaulted him, freezing his body in blood, making it impossible for him to breathe. His body had died at this moment. However, his soul still remained in his body. This was because he still had unfulfilled wishes. He couldn't leave. His soul hadn't died yet. Between heaven and earth, it was as if there was only the lotus flower and the large block of ice that had frozen Lin Jun. A day passed, and Lin Jun was still persevering. 3 days passed, and he still hadn't truly died. This unyielding will could support his soul and resist an unparalleled strength. In this world, there was no one or anything that could cause his will to collapse, unless his life was completely over. Even if his life was over, Lin Jun firmly believed that it would be a new beginning. This was because he himself had experienced it. 5 days passed, 7 days passed. Lin Jun was in the block of ice. He watched as the snow lotus flower bud quietly changed. A beam of light fell from the sky. Lin Jun felt as if he was a beam of light as he slowly fell on the snow lotus flower. When the first petal gently cracked open, Lin Jun's soul felt it. This was the power of life. This was his entire world. The flower is blooming. The polar spring is coming. A new world is about to appear. Understand. One flower, one world. This is the power of the world, the power of the world. In his dantian, the star power that had been completely sealed loosened at this moment. At this time, Lin Jun not only touched the true essence of light, but also the true essence of World King. The battle on the Star of Divine Punishment was about to end. During this period of time, the nerves of the people who were paying attention to the Star of Divine Punishment were always tense. This was because it could end at any time. In the beginning, there were 10 billion people. 5 months ago, there were only 30 million people. In these 5 months, large-scale battles rarely broke out. However, sporadic battles continued every day. From 30 million people to 10 million people 3 months ago. 2 months ago, there were only 2 million people here. 1 month ago, there were only 300,000 warriors on the Star of Divine Punishment. But this month, there were only a little more than 100,000 warriors on the Star of Divine Punishment. At this time, it was very difficult to find undead creatures. There were more than 100,000 undead creatures scattered across the 400 battle zones. It wasn't easy to find even one. Moreover, some warriors were still madly slaughtering, sharply reducing the number of warriors. For example, the Saintess of the Phoenix clan, Feng Qingwan. Her continuous slaughter had aroused the anger of many people. She went from the top 100 to the 4th place, and then from the 4th place to the 2nd place. She even surpassed Boston's points and caught up with Qin Jianfeng. As a result, not only was Boston angry, but Qin Jianfeng also felt a lot of pressure. Qin Jianfeng wanted to compete for the super physique. If it was taken away by Feng Qingwan, he absolutely couldn't accept it. Killing Feng Qingwan was a must. However, Feng Qingwan wasn't that easy to kill. This woman was born to be on the battlefield. She never fought passionately. She came and went like a ghost. Several attempts to surround and kill her had failed. In the end, Qin Jianfeng, Boston, Sheng Yin, La Modi, and the others who had returned to the top 10 gathered together. Everyone, I think we can reach a peace agreement. I must guarantee that my first place position will not be shaken. The black-clothed Qin Jianfeng said. Boston didn't respond. Lao Modi and Sheng Yin also didn't speak. They knew that it would be difficult for them to defeat Qin Jianfeng, but they wouldn't unconditionally obey his words. Feng Qingwan must be eliminated. I need your help. Besides guaranteeing that each of you will obtain a high-level divine body temperament quota, I'm also willing to provide each of you with 100 billion gold coins. 100 billion. The several super world king powerhouses' eyes brightened. This was not a small number. That's right. Moreover, you'll also gain my friendship. Even if you don't take my friendship seriously, then consider this a business deal. I will hire you all to help me with something. Boston finally nodded. Qin Jianfeng, what do you want us to do? I have already prepared the bait. All we need to do is wait for Feng Qingwan to take the bait. All we need to do is ambush her so that she won't have a chance to escape. I'm afraid it won't be that simple. As far as I know, you've done this more than once before. Unfortunately, you haven't succeeded. That woman is extremely cunning. Lao Modi said, You're right, but it's different this time. She'll definitely eat the bait this time. Moreover, I've set up more than one move. You just need to do as I say, and she'll definitely not be able to escape. Chapter 715. There was a canyon within the 100th district of the Eastern Continent. The name of the canyon was One Line Sky. There were towering mountains on both sides of the canyon. Only at the end of the canyon could one see the sky that was as thick as a line. This was the first wonder of the Star of Divine Punishment, which was in the east. After the Divine Punishment, One Line Sky was also a place where the undead creatures were denser. Especially in the later period when the border was opened, the undead creatures could move around freely. Some high-level undead creatures gathered here. If there were 200,000 undead creatures in the Star of Divine Punishment, there were almost 50,000 in One Line Sky. Even warriors had to stay away from high-level undead creatures. Especially in the end, when the high-level undead creatures came here, it became a forbidden area for warriors. Even a strong warrior like Qin Jianfeng could only wander around the border and clean up the undead creatures slowly. On this day, the warriors of the Phoenix clan, led by Jun Mo, who was ranked 4th on the overall list, were ambushed when they were killing undead creatures here. The people who ambushed them were also from the Galactic Beast Alliance. They were led by Bull Demon King, who was ranked 6th on the overall list, and Long Xiaonan, who was ranked 11th. They besieged the Phoenix clan in One Line Sky. The battle was extremely fierce. From time to time, some hero flag warriors were eliminated. Messages jumped and flooded the dimensional universe, which proved how fierce the internal strife of the Galactic Beast Alliance was. Junmo's performance was very eye-catching. He killed 5 or 6 hero flag warriors in a row. However, people with discerning eyes could see that this was a battle between prepared and unprepared. The defeat of the Phoenix clan was inevitable. However, most of the warriors didn't participate. The more tragic the internal strife, the better. The more people were eliminated, the better. Only when others were eliminated could they have a chance to rise. Only the warriors of their clan couldn't stand by and watch. They all went to One Line Sky to support their clansmen. Feng Qingwan was included. Before going, Feng Qingwan hesitated. She should save her clansmen, but the most important thing for her now was to kill people. The more people she killed, the later the Star of Divine Punishment would end. When Lin Jin came back, he would have time. But after all, Jun Mo was involved. Although Feng Qingwan didn't like Jun Mo, he was the young master. Feng Qingwan had to save him. Besides, saving people was killing people, which didn't go against her strategy of stalling time. But when Feng Qingwan entered the canyon, she knew that she was fooled. When Qin Jianfeng, Boston, Lao Modi, and Saint appeared at the same time, Feng Qingwan took out her 5-meter-long glaive. Beside her, Jun Mo and 2 other members of the Phoenix clan were also present. Qingwan, the other party has set up an ambush. What should we do? Feng Qingwan gritted her teeth. What else can we do? Meeting the top experts of the primordial realm is also a delightful thing. At the North Pole of the Star of God Punishment, Lin Jun was experiencing something he had never experienced before. The snow lotus bud finally opened up a crack and slowly bloomed. The moment the flower bloomed, Lin Jun's soul immediately found its sustenance and landed directly on the snow lotus. At this moment, a wisp of spring breeze blew in from afar, dispelling the bitter cold of winter. A warm aura swept across the land, and the ice and snow began to melt. However, winter had passed, and the life of the snow lotus seemed to have come to an end. Although it was blooming now, it would wither after it finished blooming. Lin Jun experienced the whole process from a bud to blooming, from blooming to full bloom, from full bloom to withering. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. His soul stayed on the lotus, quietly experiencing the process of life. The last aurora landed on the snow lotus, and his strange light dissipated. The polar night had passed, and winter had ended. The flower blooms and withers for another year, but this flower only blooms for one day. When the flower blooms, it is a new world. This snow lotus has a strong world power. This ice, this light, these are all martial artists' dreams. It is also my fate that I can persist until today. If there was a pair of yin-yang eyes that could see souls, they would see Lin Jun's shadow, sitting cross-legged on the flower that was about to wither. He had already become one with the lotus. When the last petal withered, Lin Jun slowly opened his eyes. This is the power of a new world. This is the power of life. My body revive. Whoosh! A lotus flashed, and Lin Jun's soul returned to his body. A strong life force began to spread on his body. Those wounds were like snow under the sun, quickly disappearing. A ray of light bloomed from Lin Jun's body and quickly pierced through the layer of ice that surrounded him. Spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the ice, densely packed in all directions before exploding with a loud bang. Lin Jun's body seemed to be wrapped in a layer of jade light as he walked out of the ice. A lotus vaguely appeared between his brows, then slowly disappeared. He didn't leave immediately. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the layer of ice. The snow lotus on the ice had already disappeared, and he was sitting in this position. All the negative energy in his body had disappeared. In his dantian, his astral power had also recovered. His spiritual power surged, and his nascent soul woke up from its slumber. Even his interspatial ring could be open now. However, Lin Jun didn't feel hungry at this moment. He lowered his head and looked at his skin. With his inner vision, he could see a crystalline treasure light flowing within his body. His smooth muscle lines weren't exaggerated at all. He no longer looked as exaggerated as a martial artist's. He felt as if he had returned to his natural state. Within the dark star space, above the North Pole, a snow lotus had already started to grow. He raised his hand and took out some energy blocks to replenish the energy of the alternate universe. Chris, wake up. Oh, ha. It's been a long time, my dear master. Oh, you look so alluring now. TSK, TSK. Those beautiful muscles, that perfect body, that crystalline skin. Those abs, and that big fellow. If I had a body, I'd definitely push you down. At this moment, Lin Jun was naked. However, when he heard Chris's words, he was still speechless. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and use your AI system to analyze my current situation. All right, master. I'll do it right away. After a brief analysis, Chris gave Lin Jun a surprising answer. Master, your body is different from before. This is the tempering of your divine body. Divine body? I've obtained a divine body tempering? Lin Jun was shocked. Didn't the tempering of the divine body only appear after the end of the star of divine punishment? Yes, it's absolutely true. Snow Lotus divine body. You should have obtained a super divine body. Although I don't know how the gods designed it, you've indeed obtained it. But I don't feel that there's much change. No. The change is too great. Master, first of all, your star power has increased again. The Snow Lotus has entered your dark star space and increased your star power by an additional 1 million. You can feel that, right? Lin Jun nodded slightly. Indeed, his star power had increased. The 1 million star power brought by the Snow Lotus had increased his dark star space's power to 5 million, in addition to the 4 5 million from his main body, it had reached 8 million. Master, don't underestimate these 8 million points of astral power. The greatest advantage of the divine body is that it can maximize your astral power. Maximize my star power. Yes, you can look at other people's battle process, and you can also look at your previous battle process. When you were fighting, astral power burst out, and the energy flow was turbulent, so you couldn't exert your full strength. You added 1 million astral power, so at least 500,000 astral power was wasted. Only half of your astral power can be used. Lin Jun nodded slightly. Wasting star power was normal. No one could exert every bit of their strength. Unless they were gods, they could make the most reasonable use of their star power. But you can't blame the warriors for this. Your bodies aren't perfect enough, so you can only reach this level. The quenching of the divine body is to change the nature of your body. The quota of 100 divine bodies is a reward for the most outstanding people, to make the outstanding people even more outstanding. Are there any differences between the divine bodies? Of course there are. If a normal warrior wastes 50% of his star power, then the primary divine body wastes 40%, the intermediate divine body wastes 30%, and the advanced divine body wastes 20%. The super divine body only wastes 10% of its star power. In other words, the super divine body can exert 90% of its star power. Hearing this, Lin Jun was shocked. If that's the case, then that's right. Previously, you had 7 million star energy, but in fact, you could only use 5 million star energy. Now that you have 8 million star energy, you can actually use 2 million star energy. Tell me, how much has your strength increased? Lin Jun didn't say anything, but he was very excited. Master, this life or death tribulation was in truth a test of the super divine body. But your performance was far too outstanding. You completed a nearly impossible mission. This mission not only requires you to have an extremely strong willpower, but also a formidable soul force. Otherwise, with just your willpower, you would have been frozen to death. But you completed it, so all of this is what you deserve. Lin Jun looked within himself for a moment. I think I can break through to the World King realm soon. Yes, Master. If you choose to break through now, I can guarantee that no one on God Punishment Star will be your match. Of course, you are very strong now, but will you choose to break through now? After thinking for a moment, Lin Jun shook his head. Not for now. I feel like I'm still missing something. I'll just leave it to fate. Master, besides a divine body, you seem to have other harvests. Lin Jun nodded. He lifted a hand. I have the speed of light. Moreover, this divine lotus body seems to have a great use. That's great, my super handsome master. Then you can leave this place and fight. Chapter 7:16. After Lin Jun finished speaking, the ethereal voice sounded again. Lin Jun, congratulations on passing the test. Thank you. Although I don't know who you are. Lin Jun expressed his heartfelt gratitude. If it weren't for this extremely harsh and seemingly impossible mission, he wouldn't have obtained a super godly body. There's no need to thank me. The person you should be thanking is yourself. Remember, no matter what, you must not be affected by negative emotions. They will erode your soul and corrode your will. The path of a martial artist is one that must be firm and resolute. Only the strongest person can reach the top. I understand, but I want to know who you are. Give me a chance to repay you. What an interesting little guy. How about this? If you can create a miracle that has never happened since the Star of Divine Punishment was created, I will tell you my name. What kind of miracle? Goodbye. Lin Jun. The voice didn't answer Lin Jun's words. Instead, it disappeared. Lin Jun took a deep breath. He was about to leave. He raised his hand, and a new moon-white outfit appeared on his body. The beautiful Southern Liang, East 68, appeared on his chest again. There were also 4 levels and 6 gold stars. There would be rewards for the gold stars in the end. He looked at his ranking in the dimensional universe again. However, he couldn't receive the signal from the dimensional universe here. He had to leave this pure land. Looking at the ice and snow around him that hadn't melted yet, Lin Jun turned around. A snow lotus suddenly appeared between his eyebrows. He raised his foot, and a lotus appeared under his feet too. He stepped on the lotus and walked forward. Lotuses bloomed with every step. After 3 steps, Lin Jun directly passed through space and left the Pure Land. In the next moment, Lin Jun had returned to the place where he entered the Pure Land. It was the teleportation circle of the Eastern Continent's first battle zone. I should be able to look at the ranking now. However, before Lin Jun could see the ranking, a notification came from the dimensional universe. Hai Long, the owner of the number 1 hero's flag in Battle Zone 35 of the Southern Continent, has been eliminated by Feng Qingwan, the owner of the number 1 hero's flag in Battle Zone 17 of the Northern Continent. Meng Fan of the Western Continent's 44th Battle Zone has been eliminated by Jun Mo of the Western Continent's 87th Battle Zone. Jin Se, the owner of the number 3 hero's flag in the Western Continent's Battle Zone 16, has been eliminated by Qin Jianfeng, the owner of the number 1 hero's flag in the Western Continent's Battle Zone 1. The continuous scrolling messages made Lin Jun stunned. This information contained a lot of information. There must be a lot of heroic bannermen fighting. Moreover, it was the Phoenix clan fighting with other people. Feng Qingwan and Jun Mo were obviously fighting with others, and Lin Jun also knew the person called Jin Se. This person was from the Phoenix clan and had been following Jun Mo. Now that she was eliminated by Qin Jianfeng, there was no doubt that they were fighting with Qin Jianfeng. The man called Hai Long was one of the 3 generals under Boston, but he was eliminated by Little Phoenix, proving that they were still fighting against Boston at the same time. Why did Qing Wan and the others start a war with Qin Jianfeng and Boston at the same time? That's too reckless. Lin Jun looked at the ranking at this time and was stunned. Little Phoenix had already reached the 2nd position, and her points were infinitely close to Qin Jianfeng's. The current rankings were as follows. Qin Jianfeng was ranked 1st, Feng Qingwan was ranked 2nd, Jun Mo was ranked 3rd, Boston was ranked 4th, Lam Modi was ranked 5th, Sheng Yin was ranked 7th, Bull Demon King was ranked 8th, Long Xiaonan was ranked 8th. Lin Jun's current ranking was more than 110,000, with 0 points, firmly holding the last position. How can Little Phoenix have so many points? What happened in the end when I was not here? No, I must find where they are fighting. Lin Jun didn't have any points now, so he couldn't teleport all. He could only see the entire Eastern Continent's first battle zone, and there wasn't even a single hero's flag. I must first find a living person or an undead creature to get some points before I can teleport. Lin Jun began to search in the battle zone, looking for a person or an undead creature. After looking around and finding nothing, Lin Jun simply sat cross-legged and began to spread out his spirit power. His spirit power spread out like mercury. 100 meters, 500 meters, 3,000 meters, 10,000 meters. When it spread to 15,000 meters, Lin Jun opened his eyes. Sure enough, in the north, the baleful light transformed into a shield and carried Lin Jun towards the north with a whoosh. In the north of the battle zone, where Lin Jun was, several warriors of the Galactic Beast Alliance were resting. Leaning against a corner to take shelter from the wind, several warriors were smoking. When warriors first started to learn martial arts, smoking was forbidden because they had to stay healthy at that time. But after reaching the Star Realm, it didn't matter anymore. Once the Star Core was formed, smoking wouldn't have any effect. A warrior of the Ox tribe with a pair of horns on his head took a deep breath. Then his 2 huge nostrils opened and closed, and 2 smoke rings appeared at the same time. I think this star of divine punishment is about to end. We'll go home soon. Brother Ox, why do you say so? Beside the Ox tribe warrior, a Tiger tribe warrior asked. Isn't that simple? Now, several great experts have been cornered by the little lady of the Phoenix clan. They have already joined forces to deal with her. Once this battle is over, there will be no more troublemakers. The experts will sweep a circle around, and the undead will be almost eliminated. Of course, they can go back. Well, Brother Bull is right. However, that little girl from the Phoenix clan is really ruthless. I can't even count the number of people she has killed during this period of time. She's simply crazy. We should have killed her long ago. It's easy to say. Do you think that killing people is easy? You have to have the strength to do so. But this time, she's definitely finished. Do you know? Yesterday, Qin Jianfeng called our boss the Ox Demon King. It said that the plan is very thorough. Brother Ox, tell me, what kind of Zhou Xiangfa is this? A leopard tribe warrior asked curiously. Hey, do you know who's in the alliance this time? In addition to Qin Jianfeng, there's also Boston, La Modi, Sheng Yin, our boss, the Ox Demon King, and another boss of the Dragon Tribe, Long Xiaonan. With all these people, how can Feng Qingwan survive? The leopard tribe warrior thought for a moment and said, but Feng Qingwan has Junimo by her side. Feng Qingwan went to save him. It's not so easy to deal with them. You only know part of the story. Our boss, the Ox Demon King, said that Junimo might. Just when he said this, a figure flashed in front of him. A gust of wind blew in his face. Lin Jun had appeared. Continue. Were you just now? After seeing Lin Jun, several warriors jumped up and took out their weapons. Who are you? My name is Lin Jun. Lin Jun. The astral behemoths looked at each other and did the same thing at the same time. They turned around and ran. Lin Jun was famous in the Star of God's Punishment. These small fries didn't dare to fight against him. If I let you run away, I don't need to be here anymore. Lin Jun waved his hand in the air and released some gravitational forces. The warriors were sucked to him without any resistance. I don't like to listen to other people's nonsense. Hurry up and tell me. Maybe you can save your lives. Otherwise, you will be eliminated immediately. If you're eliminated now, you won't get the spirit transforming chi. These warriors were ranked around 70 or 80,000. If they were eliminated now and lost half of their points, they wouldn't be able to enter the top 100,000. The warriors of the Tiger Tribe and the Leopard Tribe were stunned. They didn't know what to say. Lin Jun didn't talk nonsense. He flicked his fingers, and 2 sword chi shot into their foreheads, eliminating them directly. Do you want to end up like them? The warrior of the Ox Tribe shook his head hurriedly. No. I'll talk. Boss Lin Jun, what do you want to know? It's about Feng Qingwan. Where are they? Here's the thing. Our boss, the Ox Demon King, was invited by Qin Jianfeng to kill the warriors of the Phoenix Tribe. Junimo and some other members of the Phoenix Tribe are trapped in the one-line sky of the 100th zone. Feng Qingwan went to rescue them, but was ambushed. Qin Jianfeng, Bo Zi, La Modi, Sheng Yin, our boss, the Ox Demon King, and Long Xiaonan are all involved in this operation. It's said that everyone will get a lot of money. Hearing this, Lin Jun turned around and left immediately. In this case, the little phoenix was in danger. He had to get there as soon as possible. In the 100th zone of the eastern continent, the battle in the one-line sky was coming to an end. Clang, clang, clang. Bo Zi kept attacking with his trident. Feng Qingwan waved her saber to block. As soon as she blocked the attacks, La Modi suddenly appeared beside her like a ghost and slashed her with his saber. Feng Qingwan had no choice but to throw her saber to block La Modi's attack. She retreated quickly. A white light fell from the sky. Feng Qingwan, who was extremely tired, was unable to dodge. Finally, she was hit by Shang Yan's holy word skill. With a sorrowful cry, Feng Qingwan's delicate body fell heavily to the ground. The warrior of the Dragon Tribe, Long Xiaonan, waved her saber and went straight to Feng Qingwan. Although she was extremely weak, Feng Qingwan still waved her hand and shot out a flame to push Long Xiaonan back. However, the saber chi still injured her body. Her shoulder was dripping with blood. She once again took a few steps back in a sorry state and leaned against the mountain wall. Clap, clap, clap. Qin Jianfeng, who was in black, clapped softly and walked out of the crowd. As expected of the #1 beautiful warrior from the new territories. I can't help but praise your abilities. But it's a pity that today is not your good day. Feng Qingwan, you have lost. Feng Qingwan sneered. The top realm kings of the Yuan realm are nothing more than this. Bullying me with numbers. Even if I'm a girl, I'm not afraid of you. Come at me if you're not afraid of death. Dark green flames rose from her body. The flames of the phoenix were about to appear. Be careful. This is the true fire of the phoenix during its nirvana. She's going to kill herself. Qin Jianfeng's expression changed, and he quickly retreated. Chapter 717. Looking at Junimo, who was rushing over, Feng Qingwan's heart moved. The current situation was desperate, but if Jun Mo was willing to risk his life to save her, there might be a chance of survival. Thinking in her heart, the movement of her hand slowed down a little. Seeing Jun Mo rushing over to save Feng Qingwan, Qin Jianfeng and the others retreated slightly and were fully alert, but they did not intend to stop him. Seeing such a scene, Feng Qingwan was suddenly shocked. No, it was too late to do anything. Jun Mo had already reached her side. He was originally holding a sword in his hand, but when he reached Feng Qingwan's side, he suddenly stabbed her chest fiercely. Feng Qingwan, who was exhausted to the extreme, could only twist slightly, tried to avoid the position of her heart. Puff! Blood spurted out from the sword. Feng Qingwan groaned, and the flame that was originally gathered dissipated. She wanted to use the flame of the phoenix to perish together with the opponent, but she could not do it. Jun Mo, why? Feng Qingwan felt very sad. She came to save the phoenix race, but she was assassinated by Jun Mo. Jun Mo looked at Feng Qingwan falling to the ground, and there was a trace of pity in his eyes. He slowly squatted down and looked at Feng Qingwan's beautiful face. Qingwan, don't blame me. Today's matter is done. We will lose for sure. Instead of letting you be eliminated by others, it is better to let me eliminate you personally so that others will not get the points. Feng Qingwan's eyes were a little dim. You colluded with them? I have no choice. I am the young master of the Phoenix race, and we are neighbors with Great Qin. You have offended so many people, and these things need me to deal with. For the Phoenix race, I have to take a step back. But Qingwan, I hope you can understand me. I love you in my heart. Slap. A not so loud slap on Jun Mo's face. Feng Qingwan's eyes were cold. Shameless. Okay, I don't care if I am shameless or despicable, but today's ending is irreversible. I know you like Lin Jun, but Qingwan, you have to understand that your destiny is to be my wife. In the future, you will know my good intentions. After that, Jun Mo raised his hand, and there was still blood on the sword. Qingwan, I am sorry. Faster, faster, faster. Lin Jun teleported to District 100. After leaving the teleportation array, he immediately locked onto the direction. The one-line sky was located in the easternmost region of the 100 districts. It was easy to find, as it was also at the edge of the entire eastern continent. He sped up and pushed the shield to the limit with his mental power. The wind howled loudly in his ears, and his long hair was pulled into a straight line. The distance of over 1,000 kilometers was quickly covered. Ahead was the one-line sky. From afar, Lin Jun could even see the crowd at the entrance of the one-line sky. There were actually over 1,000 people gathered here. Over 100 hero flags were displayed on the map. These people came from various continents. Even though the martial artists gathered together, they would not fight because their bosses had already formed an alliance. In the minds of the warriors, after this battle, the star of divine punishment would be over. Everybody's ranking would be fixed, so they didn't need to continue fighting. Now, the number of undead creatures and the number of warriors was only a few tens of thousands. After the battle was over, everyone would move and eliminate some of the undead creatures. Then, they could go home. Therefore, everyone's mood was very relaxed. They gathered at the entrance of the one-line sky and chatted. Those hero flag martial artists were flattered by the ordinary warriors, so they appeared to be harmonious with each other. A hero flag martial artist from the dragon race looked at the map and said, "Hee hee, this is really Hua Hua's sedan chair." The scattered warriors outside have a keen sense of smell. After seeing the direction of the wind here, they came one after another to seek refuge. Look, another hero flag martial artist is coming. Some nearby warriors came over and looked at the map of the dragon race martial artist. They saw a black dot on the map rapidly approaching. It was a flag, which represented the arrival of a hero flag martial artist. It's a hero flag martial artist. I wonder which side he is from. Who cares which side he is from? Our mission here is to firmly guard the entrance of the one-line sky. No one can enter or leave. On the star of divine punishment, no matter how strong he is, he can't be stronger than the bosses in the valley. That's right. The top few of the leaderboard are all here. There are no more experts outside. The dragon race martial artist said with a slight frown. This guy's speed is too fast. He's almost here. You guys go over and stop him. Ask him if he is in a hurry to reincarnate. If he doesn't know how to appreciate favors, then tell him our names. The three martial artists stood up and swaggered over to greet him. Walking down the valley entrance, a stream of light was already approaching at a fast speed. Hey, someone in front, quickly stop for me. This is the one-line sky. The bosses are doing things here. Miscellaneous people are not allowed to enter. The stream of light didn't stop at all. Instead, it became faster and faster. F*CK. Where did this hothead come from? Let me tell you, Boss Bull Demon King is fighting with someone inside. Boss Qin Jianfeng is also inside. If you know what's good for you, quickly stop. Otherwise, I will call you. Puff. A mental attack came from afar. The martial artist who shouted was brain dead on the spot. Wrapped in a blue light, he was eliminated. Before his body could float up, the other martial artist had already swept past him at high speed. The remaining two martial artists stood there in a daze. The attacker didn't care about them at all and rushed past like a gust of wind. One of the martial artists was stunned for a moment. Then, he suddenly remembered who the person who flashed past him was. Seeing that person's face, his legs couldn't help but tremble. Why did this killing god come back again? Today's matter might have changed, but he didn't forget his duty. As a member of the three-headed demonic lion race, he had a loud voice. Opening his throat, his sharp voice began to reverberate. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! The person who came is Lin Jun. Please pay attention. It's Lin Jun. The missing Lin Jun has returned. Unfortunately, he was still too slow. Lin Jun's speed had far exceeded the speed of sound. By the time his voice reached the valley entrance, it was already a mess. When Lin Jun saw the situation here, he didn't stop at all. He wanted to directly rush in. But the people above also saw Lin Jun rushing over. Those who were able to survive until now were all powerhouses. Their reactions were very fast. Stop him! The dragon race martial artist roared. Everyone rushed forward. Some people had already recognized that it was Lin Jun. But at this moment, there were more than 1,000 people gathered here. Among them, there were even more than 100 hero banners. How could they be afraid of Lin Jun, who was alone? All kinds of attacks came from all directions. In this situation, it was difficult for Lin Jun to rush in, but he had his own unique skill to open up a path. Satellite fall. Attacking required a long spear. Lin Jun held the yin-yang spear in his hand. The air on the spear tip swirled. In the process of flying, it gradually formed a huge satellite. He wanted to use this satellite to crash in. The first batch of martial artists who blocked Lin Jun suffered a calamity. Their stellar energy was too weak compared to Lin Jun. Moreover, Lin Jun had tempered his divine body. He wasn't someone they could resist. All the attacks were blocked by the satellite. Moreover, the satellite continued to move forward, smashing towards them. Or rather, it wasn't smashing towards them. The satellite was moving in the direction of the canyon entrance. They were just blocking Lin Jun's path. Stop him. Don't let him enter the canyon. Several hero banners shouted. Seeing that their attacks couldn't stop the satellite, they immediately rushed over and used all their stellar energy to block the satellite's path. Mantis trying to stop a chariot. You overestimate yourselves. Lin Jun was already burning with anxiety. He raised his eyebrows and a lotus bloomed between his eyebrows. His stellar energy erupted again. Rumble. They finally collided. Several hero banners spurted out blood at the same time. Their entire body was sent flying by Lin Jun. Again, another batch of martial artists rushed over and resisted with their stellar energy. Blood spurted out again. Many people were smashed into meat paste on the spot. Again, there are so many of us. Although his satellite is fierce, we can't borrow strength from the void. Under the influence of gravity, we will quickly fall down. He can't rush up. Under the guidance of the hero banners, countless martial artists rushed over from all directions like moths. They didn't believe that they couldn't stop Lin Jun. If one looked down from afar, they would see a strange scene. Lin Jun's spear was pointed at a star-like ball of starlight that was advancing unstoppably. At the entrance of the canyon, countless martial artists rushed over like raindrops. They were sent flying by the starlight, and then more people rushed over. If this continued, Lin Jun would eventually be stopped. Just like what the hero banners said, Lin Jun would fall down when he was exhausted in the void. There was no way he could last for long. However, Lin Jun didn't. Just as his momentum was about to end, a lotus bloomed under his feet. He tapped the lotus with the tip of his foot. The exhausted Lin Jun once again gained new strength. His hands clenched and released at lightning speed. His strong body could withstand the rapid absorption of stellar energy. A new satellite descent was unleashed. If the first time was a stalemate, then the second time was an attack. Furthermore, Lin Jun changed his moves too quickly. No one could react in time. The second satellite descent came. The impact of a car that was about to stop and a car that was speeding was naturally different. This time, it was a disaster. Hundreds of martial artists were hit by Lin Jun's satellite descent this time. Instantly, their bones were broken and their tendons were torn. Blood splattered everywhere. This attack killed at least 50 people. There were 7 or 8 hero banners here. Instantly, a large number of kill notifications floated up in the dimensional universe. They were all the hero banners that Lin Jun had eliminated. The entire world fell silent at this moment. No matter if it was the people on the Divine Punishment Star, the Yuan Realm, or the battles that were about to end in the One-Line Sky. Chapter 718. The Primordial Realm, especially the Namliang Empire, went into an uproar after a few seconds of silence. During this period of time, the people of Southern Liang rarely paid attention to the battle on the Star of Divine Punishment. Currently, Liang Chun was the only remaining warrior in Southern Liang. Furthermore, he was ranked outside the top 100,000. It was not easy for him to obtain a strand of soul formation aura. Moreover, they were used to seeing Lin Jun's massacre in battle. Now that they saw Liang Chen's cautious battle, they felt a little aggrieved. They thought that the Star of Divine Punishment was about to end and that the results would be the same. However, they did not expect Lin Jun to actually come back. His return caused such a huge commotion. The notifications of him killing hero flag members flooded the screen. 80% of Southern Liang's people came online within 10 seconds to watch their hero Lin Jun's battle. Lin Jun's second satellite fell at lightning speed. After killing 7 or 8 hero flag members, he took a breath and stepped on the Golden Lotus to use the same move for the third time. Another group of warriors fell. Then it was the fourth time. His current attack speed was much faster than the others. These warriors did not even have a chance to dodge. They were like bottles that were hit by a bowling ball. They were sent flying in all directions. Meanwhile, in the dimensional universe, Lin Jun's ranking was rising crazily. After killing the first batch of opponents, Lin Jun's ranking shot up from the bottom to the top 3,000. Then, following the large number of deaths of hero flag members, his ranking went crazy. 2,000, 1,000, 500. The warriors wailed and howled as they tried to dodge. Some refused to believe it and charged forward. However, they could only become dead souls under Lin Jun's spear. When the satellite fell for the 6th time, Lin Jun charged into the One-Line Sky while carrying a bunch of people. The entire process did not take more than 30 seconds. The entrance that was peaceful just a moment ago had turned into hell on earth. The warriors were like hot air balloons wrapped in green light as they rose into the sky. With a swing of the spear in his hand, Lin Jun flung a bunch of warriors away. He turned into a flash of lightning and headed straight for the end of the One-Line Sky. The mountain walls on both sides flew past in the blink of an eye, and he could already see the situation inside. With one look, Lin Jun's eyes suddenly turned red because he saw the sword in Jun Mo's hand stabbing towards the small phoenix. The snow lotus was blooming. Lin Jun pointed a finger into the distance. A lotus flower suddenly appeared in the air and blocked Jun Mo's sword. Luan, don't be afraid. I'm coming. Feng Qingluan raises her head. Even the bloody battle of life and death can't make this little girl shed a tear. When she sees Lin Jun rushing in from outside and the splendid scene behind him, Big drops of tears can't help rolling down from her eyes. It was going to be 1,000 years. She hadn't seen Lin Jun in 1,000 years. Heartache, grievance, sadness, joy, all sorts of feelings welled up in his heart at this moment, and tears fell like rain. You guys stop him. I will kill Feng Qingwan. Qin Jianfeng's heart was filled with hatred. From the beginning to the end, this matter was in his plan. Jun and Mo had already conspired with him. He was worried that Feng Qingwan would choose to die together with him in the end, so he had more confidence to let Jun and Mo do it. And Qin Jianfeng never thought of giving up the first place. When Jun and Mo killed Feng Qingwan, he would kill Jun and Mo and be the Oriole hunting the mantis. But the plan was disrupted at this moment. Lin Jun actually came back to kill. Now he can't think so much. He must ensure that he got Feng Qingwan's points first. Anyway, he had already paid Bo Bo and the others. Now it's time for them to contribute. On this side, Bo Bo, La Modi, Sheng Yin, Bull Demon King, Long Xiaonan, and the other masters all attacked together to intercept Lin Jun. In addition to Sheng Yin, who stayed behind to prepare the holy words, the other 4 masters rushed together from 4 directions. And Qin Jianfeng went all out to kill Feng Qingwan. Lin Jun was also approaching quickly. Seeing Qin Jianfeng's action, he raised his hand again, and the snow lotus bloomed. A lotus flower just happened to appear on Qin Jianfeng's path, and Qin Jianfeng almost ran into it. Taking advantage of this pause, Lin Jun fought with the people who intercepted him. On his left was Bo Bo. On his right was Bull Demon King. Behind him was the elusive La Modi, and in front of him was Long Xiaonan with a long spear. Lin Jun danced with the long spear in his hand, and the wind blew under his feet, instantly widening the distance between him and the people behind him. His first target was Long Xiaonan. Lin Jun, you're courting death. Long Xiaonan was currently ranked 8th on the overall leaderboard. In his opinion, his ranking was a bit low, but since he couldn't get first place, it was fine as long as he could get the high-tier godly body. So, he didn't fight for it. But Lin Jun, a nobody, actually dared to challenge him, and it was a spear versus spear. This was clearly looking down on him. Pa! Pa! Long Xiaonan's spear technique had already reached the pinnacle of perfection. On the other hand, Lin Jun didn't have any spear skills at all. There was only one word to describe him: fast. The long spear in his hand turned into a ball of golden light, and like a swarm of locusts, it crashed into him with a loud boom. Long Xiaonan had already planned out her strategy. Lin Jun's plan was flawless. Lin Jun's plan was flawless. Lin Jun's plan was flawless. But what was this ball of golden light in front of him? There was nothing in front of him except a large number of golden rays coming at him. At that moment, his limbs turned cold. This was a F*King Lightspeed Spear. The only way was to protect his heart, throat, and other vital points with all his strength. The next moment, he was penetrated by the golden light. His entire body, limbs, waist, thighs, and shoulders could no longer be described as riddled with wounds. It was just a ball of rotten flesh. 0.1 seconds. He was shot tens of thousands of times. If it weren't for La Modi attacking Lin Jun from behind, Long Xiaonan would have been dead, covered in blood. He fell to the ground like a pile of mud. Long Xiaonan's eyes were filled with despair. He had lost, and he had no temper at all. He didn't know if this was 1 move or 10,000 moves. Indeed, all moves in the world could be broken, and only speed was unbreakable. Lin Jun's spear was enough to kill too many people in seconds. La Modi thought that Lin Jun would turn around and attack him, but he didn't expect a snow lotus to bloom behind Lin Jun, blocking the attack. Lin Jun's body sped up again. At that moment, Bull Demon King arrived and slashed down with his mountain-splitting axe. Lin Jun twisted his body a few times and raised his hand. Golden lotuses bloomed in the air without warning, blocking Qin Jianfeng and Jun Mo's attacks again. After dodging Bull Demon King's axe, Lin Jun swung his sword. Taiyuan. 8 million stars concentrated on this sword, clashing head-on with Bull Demon King's mountain-splitting axe. Bull Demon King was extremely strong. He thought that his axe would definitely injure Lin Jun, But he didn't expect that when the axe and sword collided, Lin Jun actually used the force to fly away, dodging Boston's trident and pouncing towards Qin Jianfeng. Bull Demon King stumbled back a dozen steps, his body slamming heavily into the mountain wall. His blood and qi churned in his chest. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. How can his star power be so strong? Lin Jun borrowed the force to move forward. A gust of wind blew past, and he was already close to Qin Jianfeng and Jun Mo. At that moment, a white light descended from the sky. Holy word had descended. I use my blood to grant you weakness, powerlessness, exhaustion. I'll seal your astral powers and strike your body down into the boundless hell. Stop right there, Lin Jun. Holy word spell. In the past, it was this move that caused Lin Jun to be trapped for 10 months, and he almost lost his life. Today, he was using the same move again. But today was different from the past. A lotus flower appeared between Lin Jun's eyebrows, and a huge snow lotus bloomed on his body. The white light of holy word spell hit the snow lotus, and it was like a clay ox entering the sea. It didn't have any effect. What? Holy word spell actually failed? What's going on? Holy word's eyes widened in an instant, and at this moment, Qin Jianfeng ruthlessly slashed out with his sword again. Lin Jun once again summoned the snow lotus to block. Petals of the snow lotus fluttered about as the sword qi whistled, protecting Feng Qingwan from another calamity. Jun Mo took advantage of the moment when Qin Jianfeng attacked with all his strength and silently stabbed out with his sword again. Qin Jianfeng's attack was too fierce, and Lin Jun's snow lotus couldn't help in time. Seeing Jun Mo attack, Lin Jun panicked and directly slapped the hilt of the phantom light sword with one hand, and directly pierced through the abdomen of Sheng Yan, who was still in a daze. The long sword flew out, and because of Sheng Yan's body, it was extremely hidden, and Jun Mo didn't notice it. His sword fell on Feng Qingwan, who was already powerless to resist, and he said, "Qingwan, you are mine. Lin Jun can't save you, so you should give up." Feng Qingwan closed her eyes slightly. But Jun Mo's sword didn't fall. Lin Jun's phantom light passed through the air and directly chopped off the arm that was holding the sword. "Ah, my arm!" Jun Mo screamed, and a phoenix arm was cut off and blood spurted out. Lin Jun directly flew over Sheng Yan's head, and now he didn't even have time to kill them. He must save the little phoenix. Qin Jianfeng finally chopped off a piece of snow lotus, and when he attacked again, Lin Jun was already behind him. "Get out of my way! You get out of my way!" Qin Jianfeng turned around, and his long sword brought out a piece of lightning, and there were tens of thousands of sword blades. This was a fast sword, and his attack speed was actually at the speed of light. But he never thought that Lin Jun would directly wave his arms and block the sword with his bare hands. And the speed of both hands was even faster than his single-handed sword. Along with the sound of metal colliding, Qin Jianfeng's single-handed sword was only slightly stained with blood, and only a layer of skin was broken. Even Lin Jun's bones were not hurt. After blocking Qin Jianfeng's sword, Lin Jun rushed to Feng Qingwan's side, picked up his lover who he hadn't seen for thousands of years, and directly stepped on the snow lotus and flew to the sky. Qin Jianfeng and the others roared angrily. They didn't expect that Lin Jun could save people in this situation, and the Star of God's punishment forbade flying. Even if they were spirit reader masters, they couldn't fly too high, and they didn't have the ability to step on the snow lotus. Jun Mo was in a sorry state as he tried to pick up his severed arm. Chapter 719. In a small tavern in southern Liang, dozens of people were watching the fierce battle in the dimensional universe. This battle, from Lin Jun rushing to the canyon to saving someone and leaving, did not take more than a minute. But this short 1-minute battle was destined to become a classic. A peak domain monarch actually saved someone while being besieged by a group of peak world kings. Who could do such a thing? This was probably the first time in the primordial realm. After a moment of silence in the tavern, a warrior stood up and applauded. Following his actions, everyone stood up one by one and applauded fiercely. On the streets, in the residences, and in the tavern, people began to applaud spontaneously. This applause seemed to be contagious, spreading throughout the land of southern Liang in an instant. Young people whistled excitedly. They were even more excited than when they were getting married and entering the bridal chamber. Lin Jun, Lin Jun, Lin Jun. After the applause, the people's shouts resounded through the sky, cheering for their heroes. In the palace, Liang Jihuan's expression was gloomy as he slowly exhaled. He turned to Rasha and asked, "Mr. Rasha, how are you going to explain this matter? I am very doubtful if you can still fulfill our agreement and eliminate Lin Jun." Laxia's expression was also very ugly. During the battle, he was actually blocked by Lin Jun's lotus and lost his attacking route. The battle after that was even more out of control. Lin Jun's powerful combat power and unexpected tactics made everyone uncomfortable, resulting in the complete failure of this operation. After thinking for a while, Laxia turned to look at Liang Jihuan. "Your Majesty, you'd better not be discouraged. This battle doesn't prove too much. Lin Jun saved someone and left under the combined attack of the few of you. Does this not explain the problem? Then how can it explain the problem?" Laxia shook his head. "Your Majesty, there are many objective reasons for this battle. The biggest reason is that everyone only accepted Qin Jianfeng's money. It was not worth risking our lives to deal with Lin Jun. Didn't you see? Boston, Bull Demon King, Sheng Yin, and I all made a move. This was also the first time Long Xiaonan underestimated his opponent and was caught off guard by Lin Jun's quick spear. Therefore, there was a lot of chance. If we had known about Lin Jun's background, the outcome of this battle would definitely have been different. Are you saying this to prove that you did not use your full strength?" Of course, none of us used our full strength, including Qin Jianfeng in the end. He wanted to knock down Lin Jun with a quick sword, but Lin Jun blocked with both hands. He did not expect Lin Jun's body to be as hard as steel, so he missed. Lin Jun could escape, but it does not mean that he is stronger than us. Otherwise, why didn't he stay and kill us all? Although Laxia said so, Liang Jihuan's face still did not look good. In any case, it was getting harder and harder to kill Lin Jun. "Your Majesty, don't worry. I will discuss it with everyone inside and try to make everyone take it seriously. Now Qin Jianfeng, Jun Mo, and I all hate Lin Jun to the bone. Sheng Yin and Long Xiaonan also suffered losses and should be on our side. As long as everyone goes all out, I can guarantee that the current Lin Jun is definitely not our opponent. What about Boston and Bull Demon King? As long as we all agree, I believe they will not stand by and do nothing. The only thing we can do now is to make everyone unite and give up everything else to kill Lin Jun. I don't care. In short, Lin Jun must be eliminated. Otherwise, our deal will be voided. Mr. Laxia will have to return double the deposit I gave you." Liang Jihuan flung his sleeves and left. Now that Ning Qingshuan's master, Iron Grand Ant, had arrived, he had to discuss how to capture Ning Qingxian. As for Lin Jun, if he really could not eliminate him, he would ruin his reputation. Hugging Feng Qingwan, Lin Jun directly rushed to the top of one-line sky. Standing at this angle, Lin Jun could even see the yellow cover in the sky. This layer of cover was the barrier that God had set for the Star of Divine Punishment. With this barrier, the Star of Divine Punishment couldn't get in or out of the Star of Divine Punishment. Looking up, the cover was so close to him. The piercing wind in the sky was incomparably fierce, as if it would blow people's skin and flesh open. Lin Jun's mind moved, and the lotus bud was like a layer of protective cover, wrapping him and the small phoenix inside at the same time. The small phoenix in his arms was extremely weak. She had suffered such a serious injury and was also affected by the holy word technique. Her condition could not be worse. "Qingwan, cheer up. Don't worry about your injury. I am now an alchemist, and a 6th grade alchemist at the level of the Great Elder. I am sure I can cure your injury." Lin Jun hurriedly took out the medicinal pills and carefully treated Feng Qingwan. Feng Qingwan gently shook her head. "No need, Lin Jun. This is the Star of Divine Punishment. If I die, I will just return to the place where I came from." "No, then I can't watch you die in front of me. Lin Jun remembered the time when the small phoenix used the phoenix flame in front of him. He still had a lingering fear. Don't be silly. What's the use of treating me now? It will take me at least a few months to recover, but if I leave the star of divine punishment and get the divine power treatment, I will be fine in an instant. But don't waste your energy, Lin Jun. I'm already very satisfied that you came back to save me. At most, I'll lose some points. Now that I'm in second place, even if I lose half of my points, I'll still be in the top 10. I'll still get a spot to refine a high-level divine body. What do you think I've lost? Lin Jun was speechless for a long time. The small phoenix was right. Now she was eliminated, but she was relieved. The star of divine punishment is about to end. I am dying. Lin Jun, promise me one thing. What is it? Just say it. No matter who wants to suppress my ranking, you are responsible for getting rid of him for me. You have to make sure I get a high-level divine body. Don't worry. You are my wife. I promise to do this. Not only will you get the divine body, but I will also take revenge for you. I won't let go of anyone who hurt you. But can't you just hold on a little longer? I can protect you. Let's stay together until the star of divine punishment ends. Lin Jun, we haven't seen each other for 1,000 years. Don't you want to kiss your wife? The small phoenix changed the topic. Lin Jun was stunned for a moment. Then he gently kissed Feng Qingwan's cherry lips. Feng Qingwan responded passionately. At the same time, she held Lin Jun's hand. After a while, Lin Jun felt that Feng Qingwan seemed to put something in his hand. Before he could react, he suddenly felt the small phoenix's divine body tremble. Lin Jun looked down. It turned out that the small phoenix had put a dagger in his hand. The dagger was in his hand, and the blade had pierced the small phoenix's stomach. Qingwan, what are you doing? Lin Jun, I don't want to be a burden to you. This way I can relax. You can fight with all your might. Also, be careful of Qin Jianfeng. He is very strong. Qingwan, remember, come to the Phoenix clan and find me. Feng Qingwan's head slightly tilted and leaned into Lin Jun's arms. Then her body flashed with a green light again. Her whole body was wrapped up and she had completely recovered. In the dimensional universe, the notification that Feng Qingwan was eliminated by Lin Jun sounded. Qingwan, seeing the small phoenix was eliminated, Lin Jun's heart was burning with anger. Qin Jianfeng, Jun Mo, and those people. You actually joined hands to deal with a weak woman. Then don't blame me. Lin Jun had made up his mind. Before the star of divine punishment ended, he would not let any of them go. Master, look at the dimensional universe's ranking. You're now ranked 8th. At this time, Chris's voice sounded. Lin Jun hurriedly looked at the ranking. Sure enough, the current ranking was Qin Jianfeng 1st, Jun Mo 2nd, B-City 3rd, La Modi 4th, Sheng Yin 5th, Bull Demon King 6th, Long Shaonan 7th, and the 8th position was him, Lin Jun. With half of the small phoenix's points, he directly entered the top 10. Master, what are you going to do next? Go back to fight? Lin Jun shook his head slightly. Instead, he opened the lotus protecting his body. No matter how strong the wind blew, it was nothing to him who had a super godly body. The cool wind made him sober up a little. He turned his body away from the wind and took out a piece of paper and a pen. This scene also clearly fell into the eyes of those who had been paying attention to Lin Jun. Previously, when they saw Lin Jun and Feng Qingwan disappear into the lotus and heard the sound of Feng Qingwan being eliminated by Lin Jun, many people had already guessed Feng Qingwan's choice. Lin Jun could not have eliminated her after saving her. This woman was helping Lin Jun. What was Lin Jun going to write now? Picking up the pen, Lin Jun wrote a string of names. The first person was Jun Mo compared to Qin Jianfeng. Lin Jun felt that this person was more abominable. He had to be eliminated. Then there was Qin Jianfeng, who was in charge of planning. This person was the strongest, but he was the culprit who hurt the small phoenix. He had to be eliminated. Then there was Lam Modi, Sheng Yin, B-City, Bull Demon King, Long Shaonan. This list included all the people who had besieged Little Phoenix in one fell swoop. At the end of the list, Lin Jun wrote the word must kill. Little Phoenix, you watch from the outside. Watch how these people are eliminated. Saying this to the void, Lin Jun put away the pen and paper and then took out the alchemy furnace. He was going to start the alchemy furnace again. Through the battle, just now, Lin Jun also knew that these people's strength was not bad, and they might have some trump cards. He still needed to improve his strength. This time, the alchemy pill was used to expel the bone-carving needle. He had collected all the bones before, but he was still missing the phoenix bone. Now that he had Junmo's arm, he could unseal the second needle. Unsealing the needle could also release 5 million star power of the doppelganger. Under the condition of transferring the star power, it would be 3 million star power. This was definitely a great help. Chapter 720. The fact that Lin Jun was holding a pen and writing down the names of these people was immediately seen by the people in the dimensional universe who were paying attention to him. The fact that Lin Jun had rescued Feng Qinghuan from thousands of enemies had filled the people of southern Liang with confidence in him. They all believed that Lin Jun could create a miracle and eliminate all these people. Because of this, the people of southern Liang even started a war of words with the warriors of other countries on the BBS. After La Xia saw Lin Jun's situation, La Modi immediately knew about it and passed the news to Qin Jianfeng and the others. La Modi and Qin Jianfeng knew that the people in the dimensional universe could see the situation inside the Star of Divine Punishment. In order to prevent people from peeping, these people joined hands and opened a barrier to discuss this matter. When the barrier was opened, people in the dimensional universe could only see them talking, but they couldn't understand what they were talking about. Everyone, I won't say anything about what happened before. You worked, but didn't put in any effort. You just wanted to get the money, which led to this ending. Feng Qinghuan was taken away, and that girl knew that she couldn't hold on anymore, so she gave her points to Lin Jun. This is something I don't want to see. Qin Jianfeng's face was very ugly. After this battle, the outside world's evaluation of us must be very bad. Right, La Modi? La Modi nodded. Indeed. Now the outside world looks down on us. They think that we are a bunch of fake goods. A group of people couldn't keep Lin Jun alone. Long Xiaonan, Jun Mo, and Sheng Yin were all badly injured. They all said that if it weren't for saving Feng Qinghuan, Lin Jun would have killed all of us. Although there are some people who understand the situation, most of them say so. Did you all hear that? This is the result of us not being able to see eye to eye with each other. Now that Lin Jun has come to the top of the Line Mountain, he said that he will come down and kill us all in a day. What do you think? 2 streams of smoke came out of the Bull Demon King's huge nostrils. Humph! I was a little careless before. If there's a next time, Lin Jun will definitely be very miserable. Qin Jianfeng glanced at him contemptuously. You just fought with Lin Jun for a short time. What do you think your chances of winning are even if you fight with all your strength? The Bull Demon King was at a loss for words. I'm not talking about a one-on-one fight. I'm talking about us fighting together. Qin Jianfeng didn't look at him again. Instead, he said to everyone, I can say without exaggeration that the short fight with Lin Jun just now is enough to prove his strength. Among us, no one has the confidence to defeat him in a one-on-one fight, including me. Moreover, I believe that most people have a higher chance of failure. These people were silent. Although they didn't want to admit it, they had to admit that what Lin Jun did just now was impossible for them to do. Qin Jianfeng continued, I'm not saying that Lin Jun is much stronger than us. Everyone should have seen from the fight just now that this brat has obtained some kind of secret technique. He might even have a divine body. It is because of this that we can't defeat him. If the Star of Divine Punishment ends and we all obtain a divine body, Lin Jun won't be much. However, at this stage, his divine body is very difficult to deal with. Now that we are all grasshoppers on the same rope, we can discuss any ideas you have. We can always find a way to restrain him. Sheng Yin's lower abdomen injury had basically recovered. Junmo's broken palm had also regenerated. Long Xiaonan, who was the most seriously injured, had also recovered a lot. Her eyes were filled with hatred and fear. Hearing this, Long Xiaonan suddenly said, I actually have a way. I just don't know if you're willing to give it a try. We have already come to this point. Just tell us what method you have. As long as we can eliminate Lin Jun, nothing will be a problem. Long Xiaonan said, our dragon race has a secret medicine. It is refined from an ancient recipe. It is called Berserk Lightning Pill. I don't know if you have heard of it. Berserk Lightning Pill. Junmo's eyes lit up. I know this medicine. If someone takes this medicine, their star power will increase by 50%. Moreover, their strength and speed will increase sharply. It can be said to be the #1 combat medicine. However, the side effect, Qin Jianfeng asked, what side effect? Junmo continued. The side effect is that the person who takes it will explode and die within half an hour. Therefore, this medicine is also called a self-killing medicine. If you're not tired of living or have no way to live, no one will use this medicine. Bull Demon King coldly snorted. Who would eat a medicine that will explode? Whoever eats it is an idiot. On the other side, Boston gently rubbed his trident. I don't think so. Don't forget that this is the star of divine punishment. Death isn't real death. If this medicine is really that miraculous, then it can offset Lin Jun's strange buff. If it can eliminate Lin Jun, then there is no harm in giving it a try. Bull Demon King's eyes immediately lit up. That's right. It's not real death. Why should we be afraid of him? When Lin Jun comes, we'll all eat this medicine and kill him in minutes. After saying so, he asked Long Xiaonan, how many of these pills do you have? Not too many, not too few. We have 7 people here, so 1 for each of us. Boston continued, I think it's fine. When Lin Jun arrives, we must all take it. Only then can we guarantee that no one will take the medicine and benefit from the battle. Sheng Yin said, we can kill Lin Jun like this. But if we all self-destruct, what will happen to our rankings? Qin Jianfeng fiercely waved the sword in his hand. That's easy. Let's take action now. We will kill all the people who are ranked below us, from the 30th to the 40th. Even if our points are halved, we will still be in the top 10. Anyway, the Star of Divine Punishment is about to end. Killing Lin Jun is the most important thing. Lamodi also nodded. Then let's do it this way. Let's split up and clean up the warriors behind us. Didn't Lin Jun say he'll be here in a day? Let's set a time. 20 hours later, we'll gather here again. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it this way. No one is allowed to be absent. Otherwise, we'll all join hands to deal with him. The 7 experts of the Star of Divine Punishment decided on a strategy. In their opinion, as long as they got rid of Lin Jun first, when everyone had a divine body in the future, Lin Jun would be nothing. The 7 experts immediately split up and set a time to gather here again in 20 hours. They knew where many of the hero flag warriors were. Even if they didn't know, they had many subordinates who could ask around. Soon, they locked onto those hero flag warriors and started to take action. The 7 experts split up and moved. Soon, a kill notification appeared in the dimensional universe. The rest of the hero flag warriors were in trouble. As long as they had a higher point and could threaten their position, they would be killed. The points of the others were reduced, while the points of the others were increased. The people in the dimensional universe saw their actions, but they didn't know what was wrong with them and what they wanted to do. They could only wait for the moment of the final battle to come. In the starry sky of the universe, a 5-colored deer was rapidly approaching the Star of Divine Punishment. On the back of the deer, Ning Qingxian looked exhausted. She had been hurrying in the starry sky for 10 months. In order to find this place, she had exhausted all her energy. Along the way, she had encountered many dangers. If it weren't for Ning Qingxian breaking through in the immortal realm, she might have died. However, when she saw the yellow light outside the planet, she was pleasantly surprised. Success! I finally found the location of the Star of Divine Punishment. These 10 months of hard work didn't go to waste. Driving the 5-colored deer, Ning Qingxian quickly approached the Star of Divine Punishment. Ning Qingxian came to the periphery of the planet and ran around the planet twice. However, she still couldn't find a single crack that would allow her to enter the Star of Divine Punishment. The barrier of the Star of Divine Punishment is really powerful. Even with my current strength, I still feel that it's unshakable. The barrier is about 10,000 meters away from the ground. It's a very thick layer. I wonder if there's a weak spot? Ning Qingxian thought to herself. She started to look for the weak spot of the barrier according to her thoughts. She didn't believe that something set up by the gods was absolutely flawless. There must be some weak spots. If she could find them, she might be able to create some miracles. Just as she was anxiously searching, a bell rang in her ears. Ah, it's the 3 soul-chasing bells of Greenleaf Sect. Master is calling for me. Ning Qingxian hugged her head with both hands. Her beautiful face revealed a painful expression. Since she left the southern Liang to search for the Star of Divine Punishment, she knew that there would be a day when Liang Jihuan couldn't find her. In the end, he would definitely ask her master to take her back. The soul-chasing bell was a restriction for her as the successor of the sect. In her master's eyes, Ning Qingxian would not only take over the position of the empress, but also the Greenleaf Sect. This was her destiny, and she couldn't go against it. Therefore, her master, Iron Great Ant, didn't allow anything to happen to Ning Qingxian. However, something happened to her. Lin Zhen's appearance disrupted her life, making her walk on a different path. The soul-chasing bell was planted in her body by her master when she was young. If one day she had bad intentions, the soul-chasing bell could take her soul and bring her back to the Greenleaf Sect. These days, she closed the dimensional universe and didn't answer her master's calls. Finally, she angered her master and began to use the soul-chasing bell to deal with her. After 3 soul-chasing bells, my soul will enter an unconscious state, just like a living dead person. I will automatically return to the Greenleaf Sect. I don't know the details, but there must be something horrifying. Ning Qingxuan's body began to tremble. By the time the soul-chasing bell ended, she was already drenched in sweat and was on the verge of collapsing. I can't leave yet. I haven't seen Lin Zhen. His situation must be very dangerous. I have to find a way to break through this barrier. Before that, I can't go back. Almighty God, please bless me this time. Even if the 3 soul-chasing bells turn me into a walking corpse before that, please let me see Lin Zhen one last time. Okay? Chapter 721. Flames were injected into the cauldron, and the 7 bones changed shape in the flames. Spirit chi slowly overflowed, and the elixir was formed. The flames retracted, and the cauldron opened. A golden elixir appeared in Lin Zhen's hand. After a whole day and night, this bone-engraved golden elixir is finally formed. Holding the elixir in his hand, Lin Zhen put away the cauldron and summoned his clone. Then, he swallowed the elixir. The bone-engraved divine needle needed to absorb a large amount of bone marrow energy to expel it. This golden elixir contained a large amount of bone marrow energy, and it was just enough to feed it. As the elixir entered his stomach, all the medicinal power rushed to the divine needle in the bones. About an hour later, all the medicinal power disappeared and was contained in the divine needle. Astral power was activated, and the divine needle in the bones was slowly forced out of the body. When this slender silver needle appeared in Lin Zhen's hand, the astral power in his body was finally strengthened again. The suppressed one, 5 million astral power, appeared in the clone's body, and the clone's astral power reached 5 million. It's a pity that I haven't found a way to expel the bone-engraved divine needle. Otherwise, if I could expel the needle in one go, I could get another 2 million astral power. At that time, the clone's astral power would reach 5 million. Together with the power of the main body, I would have 5 million astral power without using the divine power elixir. But it's enough for now. After the astral power transfer, I will have 5 million astral power. Plus, I have the super divine body, which is enough to deal with Qin Jianfeng and the others. After standing up, Lin Zhen felt better than ever. After opening the dimensional universe to take a look, Lin Zhen was surprised to discover that there were several hero banners in the canyon within one-line sky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 people. Are these 7 people waiting for me? At this time, a string of messages popped up. They were all about the hero banners being eliminated, and the 7 people who were eliminated were Qin Jianfeng and the others. Most of the people who were eliminated were also on the list. They were all martial artists who were ranked at the top. Looking at the overall ranking, Lin Jun found that the martial artist who was ranked 9th had almost 5 times the points of Long Xiaonan, who was ranked 7th. Are you planning to fight me to the death? That's good too. Since we don't have any worries, let's fight to the death. After tidying up, Lin Jun whistled and dove down from the top of the canyon. Within the one-line sky, the atmosphere was stifling. Qin Jianfeng's group of 7 waited in the canyon, waiting for the arrival of the final battle. This kind of waiting made people a little anxious. The Bull Demon King was pacing back and forth on the spot with a berserk lightning pill in his hand. Not only him, everyone had a berserk thunder pill in their hands. Bobo looked at the Bull Demon King, who was walking back and forth. He frowned slightly and said, "Old Bull, you should be more or less done. Walking back and forth is making me dizzy. Ocean Emperor, when do you think we should consume this berserk lightning pill?" Bobo thought for a while and said, "It's better not to consume it immediately. I reckon that Lin Jun won't use all his trump cards right away. Everyone should take out their own secret arts. Maybe we can win without using this thing. But we must be careful. If Lin Jun suddenly goes berserk, we must consume the berserk lightning pill immediately and end the battle within half an hour." After saying that, Bobo looked at Qin Jianfeng and said, "Crown Prince of Qin State, are you sure the Star of Divine Punishment is about to end?" Qin Jianfeng nodded slightly and said, "That's right. We have already arranged for people to go out and hunt. Right now, the number of undead creatures is only a little more than humans. According to the normal speed, the Star of Divine Punishment will end in about an hour. If everything goes well, maybe it will only take 30 to 40 minutes. Phew. I suddenly hope that Lin Jun can continue to cultivate on the mountain peak for a while. This way, maybe we won't have to fight this battle. Don't pin your hopes on these illusory things. A martial artist still has to look at himself. If we are afraid of fighting, then our future achievements will be limited." At this moment, in a dark corner, Lamodi, who looked like a mass of air, suddenly spoke. "Be careful, there's a murderous aura up there. Lin Jun is coming down." Several people immediately stood up and raised their heads to look at the mountain peak. Above the one-line sky, a figure swooped down like a bomber, bringing along a rumbling sound of air exploding, rushing down at high speed. In the blink of an eye, they could see Lin Jun's long hair fluttering in the wind and his murderous eyes. "He's coming. Prepare for battle." Asterisk, 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 asterisk. In the southern Liang Imperial Palace, Liang Jihuan was sitting with an old woman. Looking at the old woman with a gloomy face and a head full of silver hair, Liang Jihuan felt a chill in his heart. This old woman was called Great Aunt Tai. She was someone who had experienced the Star of God's Punishment and had lived for more than 100,000 years. Not to mention Liang Jihuan, even his father and grandfather had to respectfully address Great Aunt Tai as their senior. It was not unreasonable to call her Great Aunt Tai. Ever since she entered the southern Liang Imperial Palace, Liang Jihuan had never seen her smile. Her face was as expressionless as steel. Even if there was some expression, it was the kind of gloomy and cold that made people shudder. Qin Xian has lived with this old woman since she was young. That's why her personality is a little cold. But fortunately, she is not like this old woman. Otherwise, she would be finished. Ding ling ling. Great Aunt Tai put down the black bell in her hand and then looked at Liang Jihuan with a knife-like gaze. What is the emperor thinking? Do you think that this old woman is repulsive and unreasonable? Liang Jihuan was stunned for a moment and hurriedly waved his hand to explain. No. I definitely did not mean that. Don't think that I don't know what you were thinking. You saw me shake the soul-chasing bell, and I feel a little sorry for your empress. But don't forget, you were the one who asked me to come here. Are you going back on your words now? Senior, you misunderstood. I was just thinking that such a small bell can actually make the empress come back. Is it really magical? Oomph. Do you think that I am willing to shake the bell? The soul-chasing bell is extremely harmful to a person's soul. The first time it is shaken, the person who is driven by the bell will have a splitting headache, as if thousands of steel needles are piercing into the brain. The pain is definitely not something that a person can bear. So powerful? Then the empress, you don't have to worry too much. I watched Qin Xin grow up since she was young. I know very well how much she can bear. The bell will definitely not be able to get her back the first time. What about the second time? The second time is even more powerful. The person who is driven by it will feel like their brain has been gouged out. It'll even cause damage to the soul. It is not an exaggeration to say that the pain is like going to hell. My disciple is going to suffer this time. Then the Empress will be able to come back when you shake it the second time. If she comes back, she will naturally not suffer. I hope that she can be more sensible and not shake it the third time. Otherwise, it will really cause harm to her. What kind of harm will there be? Arching Yesek's ancestor once received the soul-chasing bell 3 times. He was a martial artist of the immortality realm. He also ran out of the sect because of love. After receiving the soul-chasing bell 3 times, he became an idiot. Hearing Aunt Tai's words, Liang Ji Huan was a little dumbfounded. He did not expect the consequences to be so serious. What? Is your heart aching? If the emperor is really heartbroken, you can tell me, and we will stop. How about it? Liang Jihuan hesitated for a while with a gloomy expression. After the third time, will the empress definitely come back? Oomph. At that time, she will be a walking corpse and will not be able to control herself. Of course, she will have to return to the beginning. He gritted his teeth fiercely. Then shake it. If the second time is not enough, then the third time. I would rather she stay by my side like a walking corpse than live together with her wild man outside. Aunt Tai's facial muscles twitched slightly. Liang Jihuan suddenly realized that Aunt Tai was smiling approvingly. The emperor's words are correct. Although she is my disciple, no one can affect the interests of the Greenleaf sect. If she persists in going about things the wrong way, then don't blame me as her master for being ruthless. Just now, I was worried that you would be troubled by love and be indecisive. Now, it seems that you're also a heartless person. If I am not ruthless, how can I be the emperor? Senior, you are underestimating me. Liang Jihuan closed his eyes slightly. Ning Qing Xian, you better be sensible and return to my side. Then, both of us will be fine. Otherwise, I will have to use extreme measures. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Quick, quick, quick. It's starting. On the streets and alleys of southern Liang, many people chose to go to the big screen to watch the final battle instead of watching alone at home. Everyone knew that this battle would be the final battle on the Star of God's Punishment. Lin Jun was going to challenge the top 7 experts. Victory or defeat would be decided in this battle. Watching from the streets, everyone cheered for the person they supported. That kind of feeling was something that could not be experienced in the dimensional universe. In southern Liang, on the main road in front of the Imperial Palace, traffic had already stopped. There was a sea of people. Hurry up. Lin Jun is about to come down. Yeah, Qin Jianfeng and the others are on guard. Is your screen broken? The staff wiped the sweat off his forehead. Don't worry, it's almost done. The big screen flickered a few times and suddenly an image appeared. The image was of the one-line sky. It was a 4D image with surround sound. It made people feel as if they were there. Whoosh, whoosh. As soon as it appeared, it was an extremely hot scene. Lin Jun descended from the sky with a spear in his hand. He was like a meteor as he rushed down. Lin Jun, don't be so arrogant. Today, I'll let you have a taste of this old bull's true ability. Bull Demon King was the first to meet the attack. He brandished his mountain axe. His muscles bulged, and the blood vessels under his skin were as terrifying as earthworms. He wanted to take revenge for the humiliation of being beaten back by Lin Jun. Seeing these people, Lin Jun thought of the scene of the small phoenix closing its eyes in his arms. His eyes were bloodshot. The spear in his hand spun 3 times in the air. Holding the spear with both hands, he used the spear as a stick and smashed it down with the weight of Mount Tai. Taste your ass. Lin Jun's muscles bulged as well. He fiercely smashed the mountain axe with his spear. Rumble. The big screen on the street shook. That was because the one-line sky was shaking. This was a collision of strength. This was a collision of men. The Bull Demon King's gigantic body staggered a few steps back. Every step he took left a deep footprint on the ground. The ground beneath his feet cracked like a spider web, spreading in all directions. Looking at Lin Jun again, He bounced up after the attack. His body twisted in the air, and his feet stepped on a lotus flower. He actually smashed down with his spear again. Again. Boom. Bull Demon King's first impact had not been resolved. He was hit by the second attack. His arm went limp and his chest churned. Blood spurted out from his mouth. Chapter 722. Lin Jun swung his spear twice in a row, smashing Demon King Bull to the point of spitting out blood. He originally wanted to finish off this person in one go, but Boston and Long Xiaonan, who were at the side, brandished their weapons to meet him, giving Demon King Bull a chance to breathe. Lin Jun swung his spear and directly charged towards Boston. Boston had fought Lin Jun once before, but Lin Jun only dodged his attack and flew past. He had yet to clash with Lin Jun head-on, so he was quite unconvinced of Lin Jun's strength. However, Boston wasn't reckless at all. This person's strength was comparable to Qin Jianfeng's. Seeing Lin Jun charging towards him, the corner of his mouth curled up in a sneer. "Come on!" The Sea Emperor's trident in his hand swung, laying down a mountain-like sea of spears and halberds. His speed was actually not inferior to Lin Jun's attack speed. If Lin Jun dared to rush up, he was confident he could stall Lin Jun and let his companions from other angles come over to support him. The 7 of them stood in a circle, with Boston taking the lead on this side. Bull Demon King and Long Xiaonan were on his left and right, but Lin Jun's first target was Bull Demon King. Qin Jianfeng and Shang Yin were already preparing to come over to support. Lin Jun rushing towards Boston also made them happy. Lin Jun was confused. He actually chose the strongest Boston. As long as Boston could stall him, this battle would be won. 11 Lin Jun's eyes flashed with a cold light as he rapidly approached Boston. Seeing Lin Jun's high-speed attack, several people's faces lit up with joy. The faster the speed, the harder it was to turn. Lin Jun was bound to fight with Boston, so the several people chasing after him also sped up. Just as they were about to give chase, Lin Jun's eyes revealed a hint of success. These 7 people must have some kind of strategy. Lin Jun never thought of fighting 7 people at the same time. If he could get rid of one first, then the pressure later would be greatly reduced. He had already locked onto his first target. He attracted everyone's attention. Just as he was about to come into contact with Boston, a sudden change occurred. A lotus flower bloomed out of thin air, and the unfolded lotus petals drew a beautiful arc. It was like a force-turning device, causing Lin Jun's body to suddenly slide to the side. Careful! His target is Long Xiaonan. Quickly take the divine pill. When Long Xiaonan saw that Lin Jun had suddenly turned around and was coming toward her, the fear of being tortured by Lin Jun's swift spear surfaced in her heart. Everyone's divine pills were already placed in their mouths. If the situation went south, they would immediately crush them. Clenching his teeth clenched, shattering the divine pill. A berserk aura rose from Long's body to the skies. The violent thunder pill was Flame's divine pill, was violent, was divine pill, was divine pill, was a divine pill, innate divine pill. Lin, calm the Lin Jun to Long Xiaonan brandished his long spear and stabbed it at Lin Jun. He wanted revenge. He wanted to kill Lin Jun. Seeing Lin Jun turn, La Modi and Junimo also launched a pincer attack from behind. Boston, Qin Jianfeng, and Shang Yin didn't have the ability to suddenly change directions. They still needed about half a second to adjust. Seeing the berserk Long Xiaonan, Lin Jun's eyes flashed. He brandished his spear and met him head-on. Lamodi, who was behind him, saw this scene. Lin Jun's body twisted in the air, as if he had split into 2. One went towards Long Xiaonan, while the other made a second sharp turn and rushed towards the Bull Demon King, who was still recuperating. The scene of Lin Jun killing Lin Jun's doppelganger flashed through Lamodi's mind. He shouted, "We've been tricked. His target is Old Ox." Unfortunately, his shout came too late. Lin Jun's initial target was Demon King Ox. His first charge attracted the attention of 3 people. His second charge, plus the doppelganger, attracted the attention of 3 more people. Like this, Demon King Ox was left alone. Demon King Ox only saw a blur in front of him. Lin Jun was already in front of him. In his panic, the only thing he could do was to crush the berserk thunder pill in his mouth and chop down with his axe. Unfortunately, it was too late. Even though Demon King Ox's current state was heaven-defying, Lin Jun's spear had already arrived in front of him and pierced his throat. Clang! Like an electric drill piercing a steel plate, a string of dazzling sparks flew out from his cowhide. It was actually very difficult to penetrate. What a powerful pill! Lin Jun's eyes narrowed. Like a bolt of lightning, he punched the tail of the yin-yang spear. Let's see if he can withstand it. Satellite fall. A ball of satellite light smashed into the tail of the spear. No matter how tough Demon King Ox's skin was, it could not withstand it. With a poochie sound, the spear directly pierced through his throat. Demon King Ox's huge body flew up and was directly nailed to the mountain wall behind him. However, Demon King Ox's body swelled and actually exploded with a boom. Such a powerful explosion caused Lion Sky's mountain to shake and rocks to tumble down. Lin Jun did not expect this to happen. However, the lotus flower outside his body flashed. The impact and countless rocks hit the lotus flower without hurting him at all. This explosion also forced the rest of the people to retreat temporarily, creating some distance between them and Lin Jun. Originally, the doppelganger was about to be killed by the others. Fortunately, Lin Jun was able to retrieve it. The doppelganger had completed its mission. It restrained Long Xiaonan and the others for a while, allowing Lin Jun to successfully kill the first enemy, Demon King Ox. Lin Jun took out a pen and paper and fiercely scratched Demon King Ox's name on it. First. Behind him, Demon King Ox had been resurrected. Wrapped in green light, he rose into the sky like a Kongming lantern. His eyes were still full of resentment. His ranking dropped from 6th to 8th. Instead, after Lin Jun eliminated him, he rose from 8th to 6th. Although the reward was the same, he was disgraced. It could be imagined that when he returned to the Galactic Beast Alliance, he would not be warmly welcomed by the Ox Demon clan. Qin Jianfeng and the other 6 people's faces were extremely ugly. Among the 6 of them, the youngest person was Qin Jianfeng. However, he was more than 100 years older than Lin Jun. These people were geniuses among geniuses. They even had a history of defeating immortal warriors. However, right under their noses, Lin Jun saved Feng Qingwan the first time. It could be explained by carelessness. However, how could they explain it this time? 7 against 1. Lin Jun managed to carve out a path of blood and decisively killed Demon Bull King. This slap in the face was ruthless enough. Even if they eliminated Lin Jun, after returning to the primordial realm, no one would call them number 1 anymore. It seems that we have all underestimated you. Lin Jun, you are really surprising. Qin Jianfeng said sinisterly. Then he said to the other 5 people beside him, Old Ox has been eliminated. It seems that we have no other choice. Even if we win a normal battle, we might be injured. We should all take the medicine at the same time. The few of them looked at each other. Although they were on the star of God's punishment, taking this kind of suicide medicine required courage. However, they had already made an agreement. Everyone had to take the medicine. Otherwise, they would attack together. Qin Jianfeng smiled. Why? Are you worried that I won't take the medicine? Then, I will set an example for everyone. Then, everyone has to follow me. Otherwise, I will attack him. After saying that, he clenched his teeth. Suddenly, a surge of energy rose from Qin Jianfeng's body. Skin hardening, speed increasing, strength increasing. Seeing Qin Jianfeng take the medicine, the others had no other choice. Everyone crushed the berserk thunder pill in their mouths. Waves of murderous aura rose from everyone's body. Powerful star power formed a beam of light that pierced through the crack in the sky above One Line Sky and shot straight into the clouds. Lin Jun looked at the 6 people whose combat power was off the charts and took a deep breath. The real battle had just begun. Lin Jun, handsome, too strong. Lin Jun, you're my idol. Southern Liang is proud of you. What bullshit peak world king? 7 against 1, and the result is like this. Ha ha ha. The Great Qin Empire is only SOSO. Don't you feel ashamed that you were forced to take medicine by a region monarch? Even I feel ashamed for you. The streets of Nanyang were in an uproar. All the people of Nanyang were loftily wandering around the warrior forums of various countries. They began to argue with the warriors of other countries. The martial artists of Qin Jianfeng's country weren't idle either. They said that Lin Jun wouldn't be able to jump around for much longer and would be eliminated soon. There are also people who said that Lin Jun had cheated. This was because some powerhouses who had obtained a divine body pointed out that Lin Jun's current performance was clearly the effect of a divine body. After catching a black mark with great difficulty, the martial artists of other countries immediately began to fight back. The martial artists of Southern Liang retorted that the Star of Divine Punishment was created by God and that there was no cheating here. The war of words in the dimensional universe was incomparably fierce. Countless people were paying attention to this battle. This was already the grandest event in the primordial realm. The five-colored deer turned its head and let out a cry as it looked at its weak master on its back. "Don't worry about me. Let's continue searching." Ning Qingxian touched the five-colored deer's head and smiled with difficulty. The five-colored deer moved its four hooves and galloped quickly in the starry sky, looking for a flaw in the Star of Divine Punishment. That's... Ning Qingxian suddenly stopped and looked into the distance. There was a white pillar of light attacking the sky, but couldn't break through the barrier set by God and only left a faint mark. There's someone fighting there. Those white pillars of light are the manifestation of star power. Ning Qingshuan's eyes lit up. Previously, she couldn't find Lin Jun's location at all. Now, she finally found him. "Kaya, let's go. It's there." The five-colored deer seemed to feel its master's happy mood. It spread its hooves and galloped toward the place where the star power was gushing out. The place where the star power was gushing out was the Line Canyon, the eastern continent, and the place where Lin Jun was fighting. The five-colored deer had just galloped a few steps when an urgent bell rang in Ning Qingshuan's mind again. Soul chasing bell. This is the second bell. Master, you're so cruel. Chapter 723. Liang Jihuan watched Antai ring the soul-chasing bell for the second time. He was still looking for information about the soul-chasing bell of the Qingyi sect. 11 The more he looked, the more frightened he became. This soul-chasing bell was simply a deadly thing. "Qingxian, I hope you can stop in time. Turn back and be saved. Don't be stubborn anymore. I don't want to either." In his opinion, Ning Qingxian would definitely not be able to survive the second soul-chasing bell. The sound of the bell was like a demon's sound. It rang for a full 10 minutes. When Antai put down the bell, Liang Jihuan immediately asked anxiously, "How is it? Did the empress come back?" Antai's head was covered in sweat. The muscles on her face twitched a few times. "Not yet." "Not yet? She actually survived? Didn't you say that the pain of the soul-chasing bell was like being gouged out the brain? She is a delicate girl. How could she endure it?" "Emperor, although Ning Qingxian is a girl, she is also a strong-willed warrior. I don't dare to speak about other people, but I know a little about this evil disciple of mine. She is stubborn. Others will not turn back until they hit the south wall. Even if she hits the south wall, she will not easily turn back. You can only blame yourself for not grabbing her heart." "Then what should we do?" Liang Jihuan anxiously asked. "Don't be anxious. After the soul-chasing bell, it needs 20 minutes before it can be used again. These 20 minutes are her time to consider. If she doesn't want the third soul-chasing bell to completely destroy her soul and mind, she will definitely come back. As long as she comes back, I will be able to sense it. What if she doesn't come back in 20 minutes? Then, as you said, we will destroy her and force her to come back. The connection between the Qingyi sect and the imperial family cannot be broken. This is what I think, and also what you think. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The one-line sky had become a super battlefield. People couldn't imagine that a battle between 7 people could reach such a level. In the Star of God's Punishment, everyone's star power was suppressed 100 times. It was reasonable to say that this level of suppression was not enough to cause too much damage to the environment. However, these 7 people seemed to have surpassed this limit. Their battle shook the heavens and the earth. The mountain range shook and rubble flew into the sky. Facing the 6 enemies who had consumed the Berserk Thunder Pill, Lin Jun immediately activated star power transfer. Lin Jun had 8 million star power and 5 million star power from his doppelganger. Now he had 5 million star power. But facing these 6 people, Lin Jun didn't have any advantage at all. This was because these 6 people were all extremely powerful peak world kings, and each one of them had over 10 million star forces. Moreover, after their star forces had risen by 50%, those like Qin Jianfeng and Boston had star forces that surpassed 20 million. Even if Lin Jun's super godly body could unleash 90% of his combat power, he would not be able to gain the upper hand. Lin Jun, you stay here. At this moment, Long Xiaonan seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. The spear in his hand turned into a storm. With the support of the Berserk Lightning Pill, his attack speed was close to the speed of light. Coupled with the fact that there were other people attacking at the same time, he could go all out without any fear. Lin Jun, you king, crazy bastard. You king, crazy bastard. Why are you scared now? Come. Where's your fast spear? Too slow. You're too damn slow. As a member of the Galactic Beast Alliance, the martial artists of the Dragon Clan had always been arrogant and haughty. Long Xiaonan was the most outstanding of them all. He looked down on all other galactic beasts. Although Lin Jun hadn't returned to the Kirin clan, he still didn't like him. In addition, after being brutally abused by Lin Jun, he was determined to wipe away that shame. He didn't care about his own safety at all. In any case, there were other people attacking around him. It was impossible for Lin Jun to focus on him. Thus, on the entire battlefield, he was the most arrogant one. Lin Jun brandished the long spear in his hand. Moving at the speed of light, his immovable like mountains sprinkled down a curtain of spears. The surrounding 6 people were like iron forging, fiercely bombarding without end. Even if Lin Jun's star energy was diverted, he was still smashed to the point that some of his blood was surging. This can't go on. The other party's combat power is too strong after taking the medicine. Unless I take the divine power pill immediately, it won't be easy to turn the situation around. Lin Jun didn't want to take the divine power pill rashly because he could see that some people weren't using their full strength. He had to keep a trump card for himself. If he used all his trump cards now, he might lose. On one side, Qin Jianfeng's long sword was swift and fierce. On the other side, Boston's trident was firm and fierce. Lan Modi's sneak attacks came and went like a ghost. Sheng Yin was constantly launching mental attacks from afar. The mental attacks were quite threatening. In terms of mental power alone, Lin Jun was inferior to him. Junmo's long sword was also deadly. However, the person who posed the greatest threat now was Long Xiaonan, who didn't care about her own life. Fortune came from danger. Go for it. Right now, Lin Jun's weapon was the edge spear. The yin-yang spear had been nailed to the mountain wall when he killed the Ox King. After dodging and parrying Boston and Lan Modi's attacks, Lin Jun suddenly erupted with elemental energy, the power of deep cyan flames. Lin Jun had been using flames for alchemy for many years. Now, his flames had taken on a bright cyan color. Although they weren't as powerful as Little Phoenix's burning sky flames, they definitely couldn't be underestimated. Bang! A large mass of flames blasted toward Qin Jianfeng. He had to stop this greatest threat first. Qin Jianfeng didn't dare to be careless. He swung his long sword and surged his astral power, blocking Lin Jun's flames. Mental Evil Spirit Attack. This time, Lin Jun took the initiative. His mental evil spirit attacked Sheng Yin in the distance. Countless howling ghosts and vengeful spirits rushed over. Sheng Yin, who had never experienced something like this before, was flustered and temporarily lost the ability to harass Lin Jun again. As the 2 attacks were launched, Lin Jun's hand movements inevitably slowed down. After all, it was impossible for a person to multitask. Although he dodged Boston and Junmo's attacks, he couldn't dodge Lan Modi's attack. Lin Jun tried his best to lower his head and avoid being hit in the vitals, but he still took a vicious stab to his back. After taking the Berserk Thunder Pill, These people's attack power had reached an unimaginable level. If it weren't for Lotus Hua Hua behind Lin Jun blocking the attack, he would have been cut open. Even so, this upward slash still sent Lin Jun's body flying high into the air. Blood splattered everywhere. Lin Jun endured the pain as his body rose into the air. Then, he pulled on the ground with a gravitational force. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew. Sand and pebbles flew everywhere. Countless gravel and dust danced around Lin Jun. Polymorph. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lin Jun decisively used polymorph, transforming his body into a small grain of sand and hiding in the dust. Where's Lin Jun? The people who were about to attack were stunned. Their hands paused for a moment. After all, Lin Jun suddenly disappeared right in front of their eyes. Anyone would be stunned for a moment. La Modi quickly said, "There's no spatial fluctuation. He can't have escaped into space here. He's still here. Since he's still here, then turn this piece of sand into dust." Qin Jianfeng was about to attack. But at this moment, a grain of sand landed in front of Long Xiaonan. Boom! Lin Jun suddenly appeared and thrust his spear at Long Xiaonan's throat. This was the only way. Even if he had to endure the injury, he had to temporarily break free from the siege and get a chance to approach the enemy. Long Xiaonan didn't expect Lin Jun to appear in such a way. It was too late to dodge, but he still had a life-saving move. Armor transformation. Galactic beast transformation. A clear dragon's roar reverberated in the canyon. Long Xiaonan had transformed into a huge golden dragon. He had suddenly turned into a dragon, and the position of his neck had also changed. Lin Jun's spear had only pierced his shoulder. The sudden change didn't make Lin Jun panic. He grabbed Long Xiaonan's thick neck and lifted him into the air. Lin Jun couldn't remove his edged spear from Long Xiaonan's body. He raised his hand, and the phantom light sword appeared. "Even if you're a dragon, I'm going to slay a dragon today." Long Xiaonan also knew that he was in danger. At this critical moment, he unleashed the last of his strength and dashed toward the mountain wall. He wanted to drag Lin Jun down with him, even if he had to self-destruct. Support Long Xiaonan. Don't let Lin Jun attack. The 5 people below were also enraged. Together, they launched long-range attacks, all of which were aimed at Lin Jun. Too late. Go to hell. Taiyuan. A sword light tore through space and created a spatial rift in the sky. The surrounding rocks and dust were all sucked into the spatial rift. The sword light slashed across the golden dragon's neck. Just as it was about to hit the mountain wall, a huge dragon head rolled down. Blood splattered with a sword. Dragon slaying with a sword. After killing Long Xiaonan, a chill rose in his mind. Lin Jun activated the Lotus Protection. He dodged most of the attacks. However, Qin Jianfeng's sword hit Long Xiaonan's dantian. Long Xiaonan's dantian was already on the verge of self-destructing. After being hit by Qin Jianfeng's sword, it exploded. The side effect of the Berserk Lightning Pill was unparalleled. It turned Long Xiaonan into a nuclear bomb in the air and exploded. Lin Jun's body was like a cannonball. He was blasted into the sky by the shockwave of the explosion. 1 flower, 2 flowers, 3 flowers, the lotuses formed a continuous barrier in the air, blocking wave after wave of attacks for Lin Jun. He rushed out of the sky and was almost close to the barrier set up by the gods. Then, he fell from the sky and returned to the sky. The snow lotuses bloomed and dispersed the dust. Lin Jun's figure appeared. There was blood at the corner of his mouth. His face was pale. The wound left by Lamodi on his back was still bleeding. However, his eyes were shining. He took out a pen and paper and drew a line on Long Xiaonan's name. This is the second one. Behind him, Long Xiaonan's body was wrapped in green light and slowly rose into the sky. Long Xiaonan, who had fully recovered, was much paler than Lin Jun. The fear of being beheaded by a sword, the fear of his body exploding, had been deeply engraved into his bones, his soul. Chapter 724. New month, eruption must rise. Now it's double 100 votes plus 1 update. Last month, the best monthly votes ranking was 161. This time, could Black Soil have higher requirements and change the 3-digit ranking to a 2-digit ranking? The 100 votes now was actually the same as the usual 50 votes. There was no upper limit. Everyone vote Black Soil Eruption. Chapter 725. On the leaderboard, Lin Zhun's points increased again, reaching 5th place, surpassing Sheng Yin. However, his actions of killing Bull Demon King and Sheng Yin had thoroughly enraged the other party. When he landed, the 5 of them didn't say a word and used all their skills. Qin Jianfeng and Bo Ba were still the absolute main force, facing Lin Zhun head-on. Jun Mo also joined them, and the 3 of them attacked in a triangular formation, making it difficult for Lin Zhun to escape. La Modi and Sheng Yin, one of them launching sneak attacks and the other harassing, kept Lin Zhun tied down. Facing the crazy attacks of the other party, Lin Zhun's only option was to use the God Power Pill. The other party wouldn't give him another chance to kill someone. With a wave of his hand, the God Power Pill appeared and fell into his mouth. A powerful surge of stellar energy rose from his dantian, and his strength instantly soared by 40%. Although the God Power Pill's increase wasn't as great as the other party's Berserk Lightning Pill, it also didn't have such a large side effect. If not for the fact that they were on God's punishment star, the Berserk Lightning Pill's value would definitely be lower. Lin Zhun's astral power had reached 5 million. 40% of her astral power was 5 million. After taking the pill, her astral power had increased to 5 million. Moreover, with the Divine Lotus Physique, Lin Zhun's stellar energy could be used to the greatest extent. The effect was almost comparable to an ordinary martial artist with close to 30 million star energy. The situation was instantly reversed. Right now, Lin Zhun's weapon was the Mirage Sword. Facing the crazy attacks of the other party, he had a feeling that everything was under his control. While the other party is unprepared, I'll eliminate them and reduce the pressure. Lin Zhun suddenly raised his sword with both hands and stepped on a lotus flower, appearing in front of Qin Jianfeng in an almost instantaneous movement. Gathering his strength, he slashed down at Qin Jianfeng's powerful sword. Qin Jianfeng's face was filled with anger as he also raised his sword with both hands to meet the attack. Lin Zhun, you're courting death. Wong. The sound of metal rubbing against metal was so ear-piercing that it almost penetrated the eardrums of everyone present. A streak of fire rose between the two. He had thought that Qin Jianfeng and Lin Zhun would be in a stalemate, and that Lin Zhun would be ready to deal the finishing blow from behind. However, he hadn't expected that Qin Jianfeng would be defeated in a head-on confrontation. Lin Zhun's long sword suppressed Qin Jianfeng's long sword. Stepping on a lotus flower, Lin Zhun directly pushed Qin Jianfeng to the mountain wall. Blue veins bulged on Qin Jianfeng's forehead, and his eyes turned bloodshot. He had always boasted that he was the #1 world king stage disciple, but now he felt a great shame. One had to know that this was a live broadcast to the entire primordial realm. Qin Jianfeng could imagine that the scene of him and Lin Zhun facing each other head-on in the future would be constantly spread by others. It would be taken out for ridicule, slapped in the face, and even made into an emoji pack. Get lost. Qin Jianfeng's astral power exploded again. However, Lin Zhun didn't continue to pursue. After pushing Qin Jianfeng away, he suddenly turned around and slashed at Lin Zhun, who had launched a surprise attack from behind. Lin Zhun then took a big stride forward. His target was Holy Words. Be careful, Holy Words. He wants to get rid of you first. After being ambushed twice by Lin Zhun, these people could roughly tell that Lin Zhun's strategy was to eliminate them one by one. Lamodi originally wanted to launch a surprise attack on Lin Zhun, but when he saw this situation, he immediately leaned towards Holy Words. Boston, who was behind him, also rushed over to help, wanting to save Holy Words. Lin Zhun revealed a trace of smile. His target wasn't Holy Words, but Boston. Boston and Qin Jianfeng flanked him, making it very difficult for Lin Zhun. He had to get rid of one of them first. Qin Jianfeng was too difficult to deal with, so Lin Zhun locked onto Boston. Seeing Boston rushing over from behind, Lin Zhun suddenly used the same trick again. the lotus flower reappeared, and he suddenly turned around, wielding his sword with both hands. Lightspeed combo. This strike looked like a direct slash, but in reality, it was Lin Jun swinging his sword at high speed. It looked like a single slash, but in reality, when 10,000 slashes were linked together, it was impossible to distinguish between them. Boston knew he had been tricked. However, he had no other choice but to resist. He raised his trident with both hands. The only thing he could do was take it head-on. 10,000 consecutive hits, each hit hitting the same spot. Boston's trident wasn't a shield. Within a second, it was broken by Lin Jun's phantom light, sword like water, dripping through a rock. For the 1-0-0-0-1 SD slash, Lin Jun used Taiyuan. Another spatial tear appeared. A crack appeared on Boston's body. Lin Jun didn't even glance at his opponent. He already knew the result of Taiyuan's attack. He suddenly turned around and brandished his sword again. This time, his target was holy words. Behind him, flowers rained down and golden lotuses sprouted from the ground. The lotuses were like obstacles, blocking Qin Jianfeng and Lord Grimm's path of advance. His only opponents now were Lam Modi and Holy Words. After killing Boston, the pressure on Lin Jun was greatly reduced. He no longer needed to be secretive. He boldly charged over. Brandishing his sword, he sent Lam Modi, who specialized in sneak attacks, flying with a single slash. Holy Word's face was filled with panic. He and Lam Modi weren't very strong in direct combat. Against Lin Jun, they had absolutely no chance of victory. However, this person was decisive enough. Seeing Lin Jun rushing over, he directly used the most convenient method, self-destruct. Seeing his opponent's body swelling up, Lin Jun immediately shot out his 7-star blade, piercing through Holy Word's brain. Then, he quickly retreated. Rumble. After a series of earthquakes, Boston and Holy Words were enveloped in green light and slowly rose into the air. They were eliminated. Sea Emperor Boston was eliminated. Secret Sect's young master Holy Words was eliminated. Of these two, one was ranked 3rd and the other 6th. Although they were still in the top 10 after being eliminated, Lin Jun had already fallen to 2nd place, second only to Qin Jianfeng. Brandishing the Mirage Sword, Lin Jun's face revealed a cold smile. Prince Qin, you better be careful. If I kill another person in a bit, I'll replace you in 1st place. This wasn't an exaggeration. After taking the Divine Power Pill, Lin Jun's strength had skyrocketed. He had killed Boston in a head-on confrontation and ambushed Holy Speech, yet the other party had been powerless against him. If this continued, no one would doubt that Lin Jun could kill them all. Only 3 people were left: Qin Jianfeng, Lord Grimm, and Lam Modi. Currently, Qin Jianfeng was 1st, Lin Jun was 2nd, Lord Grimm was 3rd, and Lam Modi was 4th. Although the others were still in the top 10, they had already been eliminated and were no longer a threat. You won't have that chance. Qin Jianfeng didn't say much. He picked up his sword and pointed it at Lin Jun. He said to Lord Grimm and Lam Modi, "There's not much time left. Let's not talk nonsense. No matter what, we have to determine the winner today. The 3 of us will attack together and eliminate Lin Jun in one go." Lord Grimm and Lam Modi nodded slightly. The 2 had already seen that to deal with Lin Jun, they had to rely on Qin Jianfeng. Otherwise, they definitely wouldn't be a match for Lin Jun. The 3 people attacked again. Lord Grimm and Lam Modi were the vanguard on the left and right. Qin Jianfeng was slightly behind, preparing a powerful killing move. Lin Jun held the Mirage Sword in his hand and locked onto Lord Grimm. This was the person who ambushed Little Phoenix despite being of the same race, causing Little Phoenix to be eliminated. Lin Jun definitely wouldn't let him go. Lord Grimm's total star power was around 18 million, even higher than Lin Jun's. However, Lin Jun didn't care about it at all. He didn't even care about Lam Modi and Qin Jianfeng's attacks. He swung his sword and met them head-on. Lord Grimm couldn't help but groan inwardly when he saw Lin Jun. However, he couldn't retreat now. He could only block Lin Jun with all his strength to create an opportunity for Qin Jianfeng and Lam Modi. Lam Modi was also charging at Lin Jun. The gap between him and Lord Grim was less than a second. Almost at the same time, Lin Jun, Lord Grim, and Lam Modi collided head-on. Without any fancy moves, the three of them exchanged tens of thousands of blows in an instant. Lin Jun's advantage after taking the God Power Pill was fully displayed. Lord Grim and Lam Modi went from being suppressed to having their palms numb, from having their palms numb to having their perlicue split open, from having their perlicue split open to vomiting blood, from vomiting blood to being seriously injured. It only took a second. Qin Jianfeng, Lord Grim, let out a shrill cry. The current Lin Jun wasn't someone the two of them could resist. In terms of speed, they weren't as fast as him. In terms of strength, they were also far inferior to him. They were completely suppressed. The two of them almost instantly fell into a hopeless situation of defeat. The wind whistled behind them. Qin Jianfeng had already caught up. The two of them barely managed to raise their spirits as they made their final resistance. The lotus bloomed. A snow lotus rose between Lord Grim and Lam Modi, interrupting their joint attack. Lin Jun's Taiyuan Abyss appeared out of nowhere again and attacked Lord Grim. This kind of attack was no longer something Lord Grim could resist. The only thing you're left here is despicable, shameless, and weak. You don't deserve to be the young master of the Phoenix race. Lin Jun, if you're going to die, let's die together. Seeing that he couldn't resist, Lord Grim decisively released the Phoenix flames. Little Phoenix wasn't the only one who knew this move. He knew it too. However, the sword in Lin Jun's hand didn't stop at all and slashed down decisively. The Taiyuan Abyss swept past, and Lord Grim died on the spot. However, the Phoenix flames were also released at the last moment. The dark green flames engulfed the ground and filled the one-line sky, turning it into a furnace in an instant. Lin Jun's body was bathed in flames. He didn't care at all. Lord Grim's firepower was still below his. This move couldn't hurt him at all. At this time, two pieces of news popped up in the dimensional universe. The first was that Lin Jun eliminated Lord Grim. After Lin Jun eliminated him, his points immediately jumped to first place. However, the second piece of news was that Qin Jianfeng eliminated Lam Modi. When the flames erupted, Qin Jianfeng decisively killed Lam Modi with a sword and used Lam Modi's body to block the impact of the flames. Lin Jun's temporary first place was immediately overtaken by Qin Jianfeng and fell to second place again. Chapter 726. No one expected the battle to turn out like this. No one expected Lin Jun to be so strong. After a chaotic battle, he killed Boston, Sheng Yan, and Jun Mo consecutively and even reached first place. No one expected Qin Jianfeng to kill Lamodi at the last moment and take back the first place. Everyone outside cursed Qin Jianfeng, saying that he had a bad character for killing his teammates to steal points. Even the warriors of the Qin kingdom couldn't speak up to support Qin Jianfeng. They couldn't understand what he was doing. Not only did others not expect this, but Lin Jun also didn't expect this. Seeing that Lin Jun was momentarily stunned, Qin Jianfeng suddenly laughed. Ha! Ha ha! Lin Jun, I know that there must be a lot of people scolding me outside, but I don't care about what they say. But I didn't expect you to be as stupid as the people outside. Do you think that I was wrong to kill Lamodi in an instant just now? Without waiting for Lin Jun to answer, he continued. At that time, if I didn't kill Lamodi, he would have died under Junmo's flames and his points would have been completely wasted. Since it's going to be wasted, I might as well take advantage of it. At least I can keep first place. We're only working together temporarily. We're not teammates who share life and death. If you can't even think about this, you deserve to die. Lin Jun rubbed the phantom light in his hand. I'm very clear about this. I just feel that you're so confident in defeating me. Did you not use your full strength just now? Qin Jianfeng laughed. Of course I'm confident, because I still have this. At this time, he opened his hand and a golden berserk thunder pill appeared in his hand. You haven't taken the pill yet? Of course. If I took the pill immediately, I wouldn't be like those idiots who died. Even if I killed you, Lin Jun, it's everyone's credit. It has nothing to do with me. If I can solve it alone, I don't want to share it with the others. As the two of them spoke, they slowly walked around the same spot. The tip of their swords drew across the ground, emitting a slight crisp sound. At this moment, the valley was completely silent, and the sound echoed. Lin Jun, if I'm not wrong, you used astral energy transfer, right? You have other astral energy storage spaces in your body, right? You haven't even reached the World King realm, and yet you have an inner world. It seems that you're also someone with a great lucky chance. However, it's a pity that I also have the ability to transfer star energy. Coupled with some illusions on the surface, the others thought that I had also swallowed the Berserk Thunder Pill, but they didn't expect that I still had a trick up my sleeve. Lin Jun, the battle is over. After saying that, Qin Jianfeng swallowed the Berserk Lightning Pill with lightning speed, and his star power suddenly skyrocketed. Beep, beep, beep. A warning sounded in the dimensional universe. Master, please take note. Qin Jianfeng's star power has exceeded 30 million, and it's still increasing. Without needing Chris to remind him, Lin Jun could feel that Qin Jianfeng's strength had soared to a terrifying degree. He was truly worthy of being the crown prince of the Qin Empire. Since he was a child, he had been raised with countless resources. After Qin Jianfeng's astral energy transfer, his astral energy had already surpassed 20 million. With the Berserk Thunder Pill increasing his astral energy by 50%, it was over 30 million. 31 million. 33 million. 35 million. Qin Jianfeng's astral energy continued to rise. When his star power finally stopped at 37 million, the people outside were all stunned. This astral energy was enough to defeat the vast majority of immortal martial artists. This Qin Jianfeng could be called the #1 world king. The martial artists of the Qin Empire were finally filled with excitement, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Look, look, this is the crown prince of our great Qin Empire. Now you know why Lamodi was killed. It is because those people will only affect his highness display of strength. He alone is enough to deal with Lin Jun. There is no first place in literature and no second place in martial arts. You all say that His Highness the Crown Prince is bad, but martial artists are not saints or doctors. Their mission is to fight. If you're not convinced, you can go and find His Highness the Crown Prince to exchange some pointers. See if he can be chopped to death with a single slash. Lin Jun, this time your arrogance has reached its limit. I will show you the might of the great Qin Empire. Compared to the high-profile martial artists of the Qin Empire, the martial artists of the other countries were all silent. In the world of martial artists, strength was everything. With this astral energy, Qin Jianfeng had the qualifications to do anything he wanted. He had the qualifications to look down on anyone. Seeing Qin Jianfeng's astral energy break through to 37 million, Lin Jun sighed and put away the idea of transforming into a galactic beast. Even if he transformed into a black hole beast and released a black hole, his astral energy was currently 17.5 million. At most, he could devour 35 million astral energy. It was absolutely impossible for him to devour Qin Jianfeng. This battle was not going to be easy. Clenching the phantom light sword with both hands, Lin Jun did not give up. There is no doubt that Qin Jianfeng was the strongest opponent he had encountered since his rebirth. The more he faced such an opponent, the more excited Lin Jun felt. It was just a battle. Lin Jun had already obtained a super godly body. Moreover, he would definitely obtain a high-level godly body as a reward. He had nothing to fear. He would just give it his all. Ning Qingxian finally arrived at the sky above the one-line sky. Her body was limp on the back of the five-colored deer. She was so weak that she could not move. She had to rely on her mount to bring her here. When the five-colored deer's four hooves landed on the barrier, Ning Qingxian flipped over and fell off the deer's back. Lying on the barrier, she could barely see the situation below through the thick barrier. Below the barrier, the crack of the one-line sky was faintly visible. At the bottom of the crack, there seemed to be a little bit of starlight flashing. It was a sign that someone was fighting. At this time, Ning Qingxian finally opened the dimensional universe. As soon as the dimensional universe opened, many messages popped out. Some of the messages were sent by Liang Jihuan. At first, his messages were all to persuade Ning Qingxian to come back. Later, when he saw that Ning Qingxian did not reply, he changed them to threats. Empress, if you continue to be stubborn, I will go to the Green Leaf sect to find your master. I will give you one last chance. Immediately reply to my messages. It seems that I do not need to be soft-hearted anymore. Empress, you forced me to do this. Your master is already here. It is up to you whether you reply or not. Then, there were only 2 messages from Aunt Tai. Xian'er, quickly come back to your master. This is an order. If you do not come back, you know the consequences. How dare you? You actually dare to disobey my orders. Then wait for the bell to ring. The messages were gone. Ning Qingxian also endured the torture of the soul-chasing bell twice. Directly deleting these messages, Ning Qingxian used the dimensional universe to check the situation inside the Star of God's Punishment. After looking for a while, Ning Qingxuan's face became increasingly pale. She saw Qin Jianfeng's hundreds of schemes and saw him swallow the Berserk Lightning Pill. This kind of suicide pill that could increase one star power by 50% was extremely powerful. At this moment, even an ordinary immortal realm warrior could not resist Qin Jianfeng. Even if Lin Zhun had many fortuitous encounters and obtained the divine body, he was definitely not his opponent. Lin Zhun, what can I do for you? Oh right, Divine Needle. I want to help you get rid of the Hailstone Divine Needle. This will definitely help you. Ning Qingxian remembered her original intention of coming here. She could not wait any longer. She had to help Lin Zhun. Inside the Star of God's Punishment, other warriors were not allowed to forcefully interfere. It was absolutely impossible for Ning Qingxian to enter the Star of God's Punishment. However, Ning Qingxian had already surpassed the immortal realm. She was not an ordinary warrior. She wanted to try and see if she could open a gap in this barrier. Just a gap would be enough. Mobilizing all the strength in her body, Ning Qingxian launched her strongest attack at the barrier. When she was in the immortal realm, she could rely on continuous attacks to forcefully cause the eternal crystal planet to deviate from its orbit. The Star of God's Punishment's mass was definitely not as good as the eternal crystal planet. After using all her strength, the space seemed to tremble. Inside the Star of God's Punishment's barrier, the mountains and rivers shook, the earth cracked, the rivers surged, and tsunamis appeared. If this was still a planet where humans gathered, there would definitely be a disaster. However, that was all. It did not cause too much damage to the barrier. However, Ning Qingxuan's beautiful eyes lit up because she already felt that the barrier in the one-line sky was a bit weaker than other places. The gap between me and the gods is huge. However, the barrier is weak. It seems that it is not unbreakable. If my strength is stronger, there is hope to open a gap in the barrier. Resisting the pain in her head, Ning Qingxian raised her head and looked at the sky. In the distant starry sky, a small planet was slowly moving. It was a rocky planet. Perhaps it contained some metal minerals. Got it. Ning Qingxuan's eyes brightened. Kair, let's go to that small planet. The 5-colored deer spread its 4 hooves and brought Ning Qingxian straight to the distant planet. Master, I beg you, please ring the soul-chasing bell a little later. Give me a little more time. 10 minutes is enough. At this moment, more than 10 minutes had passed since the second ring of the soul-chasing bell. Ning Qingxian knew that the interval between each ring of the soul-chasing bell was 20 minutes. If there was no accident, the third ring would ring in 7 or 8 minutes. Before that, if her idea could not be realized, Lin Zhun would lose. Ning Qingxian rushed to the Star of God's Punishment because Lin Zhun had disappeared. She could not find him on the Star of God's Punishment. However, he did not leave. She could not control her worry. She was worried that something might have happened to Lin Zhun. Therefore, she ran out of the Imperial Palace. She knew the consequences of doing so. The Imperial Palace and the Green Leaf School would not allow anything to happen to her. However, when a woman reached this point, her heart would not be her own. She had to come. When she arrived, she saw that Lin Zhun had returned safely. However, he encountered a strong enemy, Qin Jianfeng. She did not care about the rules. Since she was here, she would help Lin Jun. Chapter 727. In the palace of southern Liang, Liang Jihuan looked nervously at Aunt Tai beside him. Senior, how is it? Has the Empress changed her mind? Aunt Tai's face was so gloomy that it was about to freeze. She shook her head slightly. Not yet. All of this is within my expectations. That girl is stubborn, and once she is stubborn, nothing can change her mind. It seems that she is determined to go against me to the end. Speaking of this, Aunt Tai faced Liang Jihuan. Emperor, do you really like my disciple? Of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't insist on making her the Empress. Then you'd better be mentally prepared. After I ring the bell for the third time, she will definitely come back. However, when she comes back, she might not be the original Ning Qingxian anymore. At best, she might lose her memory. At worst, she might become an idiot. Speaking of this, even a cold-hearted person like Aunt Tai felt a chill run down her spine. How cruel was it for a super warrior whose cultivation had surpassed the immortality realm to be destroyed by the bell? Liang Jihuan gritted his teeth fiercely. I've already said it. I'd rather she go crazy than stay by my side. I can't let her leave with Lin Jun. Senior, you could do whatever you want. Then, allow me to adjust. After 5 minutes, the soul-chasing bell will ring for the third time. When the bell stops ringing, it will be time for your Empress to return home. I look forward to that moment very much. Liang Jihuan's eyes were a little crazy. He was prepared not only to find Ning Qingxian, but also to destroy Lin Jun's reputation. Now, everything seemed to be developing in a good direction. At least on the Star of God's Punishment, Lin Jun seemed to be no match for Qin Jianfeng. Not only did Liang Jihuan think so, but the people in the Yuan realm also thought so. Especially to some Immortality Realm warriors. The current Qin Jianfeng was already a warrior of their level. Not to mention that Lin Jun was only a domain monarch. Even a world king was definitely not his match. On the streets and alleys of southern Liang, people no longer dared to look at the big screen. Although Lin Jun was ranked second in the Star of Divine Punishment, according to the rules, there was no difference between the second place and the 10th place. They would both get the high-level god body. Only the first place could get the super god body. Could their hero still create miracles? A little girl picked up a coin and said, Almighty God, I hope you can bless our southern Liang's big brother Lin Jun to get first place. If you think he can do it, then his head will be up. If he can't, then his character will be up. The surrounding people cast their kind gazes over. The little girl wasn't a fortune teller, but children's words were often accurate. Although no one thought that Lin Jun had a chance to turn the tables, they were still willing to watch. The coin was tossed up and down, heads up. Oh, mother, look, I've divined a head. This means that big brother Lin Jun can get first place. Well, Nini, you're awesome. Your divination will definitely come true. A woman gently stroked the little girl's head. At this time, an older girl next to her said disdainfully, You haven't been to kindergarten yet, right? This kind of thing only has a 50-50 chance. You can get the result you want with a 50-50 chance. What's so great about that? The little girl, Nini, blushed. Wrong. This is God's will. Tisk. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Lin Jun can't do it. This kind of result doesn't mean anything. If he can make the coin stand up, then I'll believe it. Stand up. This is God's will. Big brother Lin Jun will definitely win. Nini threw the coin up and down again in a fit of pique. On the smooth ground, the coin spun a few times and actually stood up steadily. The two girls and the surrounding people were dumbfounded. Could Lin Jun really create miracles? Right after Qin Jianfeng swallowed the elixir, a voice came from the Star of Divine Punishment. The number of undead creatures has reached the same level as the number of warriors. There are still 10 minutes until the end of the Star of Divine Punishment. The countdown starts now. Hearing this, Lin Jun and Qin Jianfeng were both stunned. It was about to end. At this time, the other warriors had stopped fighting. They all found a place to rest and paid attention to who would get first place. Qin Jianfeng's lips curled into a smile. This is simple. Lin Jun, I'm very sorry that your arrogance will come to an end here. Clang. With a shake of his sword, Qin Jianfeng charged at him. Who doesn't know how to brag? Qin Jianfeng, you can't do it. Lin Jun laughed. Although he was at a disadvantage, he didn't lose to Qin Jianfeng in terms of aura. With the plum blossom steps, snow lotuses bloomed behind him. Facing Qin Jianfeng, who had already gone berserk, Lin Jun chose to face him head-on without any fancy moves. This battle might be unprecedented in the primordial realm. A peak world king powerhouse and the strongest super region king in history were engaged in a life-and-death battle in one-line sky. Lin Jun's current star force was 17.5 million. With the support of his divine body, he could display 90% of his strength, which was almost equal to an ordinary warrior's 30 million star force. Qin Jianfeng's star force was 37 million. Although he was stronger than Lin Jun, his star force didn't have an overwhelming advantage. Although Qin Jianfeng's aura was like a rainbow, he knew that he would have to expend a lot of effort to defeat Lin Jun. Moreover, Lin Jun was like a stone in a latrine pit. He was obviously not his match, but he was still so firm. He held onto his sword and refused to retreat. Clang, 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 the two of them fought speed with speed, engaging in a life-and-death battle in a small space. Qin Jianfeng relied on his powerful star force to successfully suppress Lin Jun's sword technique. Finally, he found an opportunity to stab Lin Jun in the chest. Before Qin Jianfeng's sword could penetrate deeper, Lin Jun had already thrust his sword at Qin Jianfeng's throat. Qin Jianfeng had no choice but to withdraw his sword to block the attack. However, Lin Jun had left a deep wound on his shoulder. The furious Qin Jianfeng wielded his sword with both hands, desperately trying to kill Lin Jun. After suppressing Lin Jun, he decapitated him. Lin Jun sneered and similarly slashed with his sword. You cut me, I'll cut you too. Let's see who's afraid of death. Qin Jianfeng had the advantage at this moment. How could he be willing to die together with Lin Jun? He had no choice but to block again. Lin Jun, you lunatic. Is this how you fight? Don't King bullshit. Come at me if you have the guts. If I'm afraid of you, I'm not Lin Jun. Although Lin Jun didn't gain much of an advantage over Qin Jianfeng, he was able to forcefully suppress the berserk lightning pill that Qin Jianfeng had just consumed. With a twist of his body, Lin Jun switched from defense to offense, using the Taiyuan sword technique again. Even Qin Jianfeng couldn't underestimate this sword technique. Because he had the advantage, he didn't want to die together with Lin Jun. Instead, Qin Jianfeng's hands and feet were tied, and his body retreated to dodge. This time, he fell into Lin Jun's trap. A martial technique that he had comprehended in the past came in handy at this moment. That was tied. This martial technique was something that Lin Jun had comprehended inside the starfruit tree. Wave after wave of attacks were like a never-ending tide. Qin Jianfeng took a step back, giving Lin Jun the space to execute. The sword light in Lin Jun's hand turned into a tidal wave, overwhelming Qin Jianfeng. One careless move, and the whole game would be lost. Qin Jianfeng was in such a situation now. He didn't dare to fight Lin Jun because he was afraid of losing first place. The more they fought, the more passive he became. He was actually suppressed by Lin Jun. For a whole 3 minutes, Qin Jianfeng didn't gain any advantage. Instead, he was hit twice. If this continued, forget about winning. It would be lucky if he wasn't eliminated by Lin Jun. In the Qin Imperial Palace, the great Qin Emperor finally couldn't stand it anymore. The Qin Emperor was named Qin Wushang. Because he had been injured many times since he was young, his mother gave him this name. Qin Wushang was already several 100,000 years old. He had obtained the super divine body on the star of divine punishment. In terms of battle experience, Qin Jianfeng was far inferior to him. Sitting cross-legged on the dragon throne, Qin Wushang's star power was as vast as the sea. A thought crossed the void and directly entered Qin Jianfeng's mind. This was Qin Wushang's unique skill, galaxy telepathy. It could even penetrate the barrier of the gods. However, this was against the rules. Qin Wushang had always been unwilling to use it. He believed in his son, but now that the situation was like this, he couldn't care less about breaking the rules. Moreover, Qin Wushang himself was very strong. He wouldn't be too afraid of the gods. Jianfeng, your points exceed his. What's there to be afraid of dying together? I've already seen the rules. Even if you die together, each of you will get half of the other's points. The rankings will still be the same as before because his points didn't exceed yours. So, don't think about the points. Go all out. This voice was like being enlightened, waking up the timid Qin Jianfeng. That's right. Each of them would get half of the other's points. Because Lin Jun didn't surpass him, he would still be first, and Lin Jun would still be second. With this thought in mind, the fear from before vanished into thin air. Roar! Qin Jianfeng immediately changed his fighting style. The fear from before completely disappeared. The sword in his hand fiercely struck out. Qin Jianfeng's body was covered in blood. At this moment, Lin Jun had struck Qin Jianfeng over 100 times. However, there were no fatal injuries. Instead, Qin Jianfeng's sword had sent Lin Jun flying. Lin Jun spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Qin Jianfeng had already followed him like a ghost. Lin Jun, you're really finished this time. Die. Both sides exchanged blows once again. Lin Jun knew that his strategy had failed. Qin Jianfeng suddenly became enlightened. Actually, death on the Star of Divine Punishment wasn't scary. He was afraid of the rankings, so he didn't dare to die together with Yi Shiwen. Now that he didn't have this worry, this battle would be difficult. However, Lin Jun had always been someone who would rather break than bend. This time, Qin Jianfeng was really strong. Lin Jun just had to beat him down. Seeing Qin Jianfeng coming at him again, Lin Jun gritted his teeth and struck again with his long sword. Taiyuan, strike again. Qin Jianfeng sneered. Repeating this trick is useless against me. Splendid slash. The astral power drove the sword energy. The space between the two twisted, and they were about to collide head-on. Lin Jun's eyes turned cold. From the black hole in his dantian, the second destructive thunder was attached to the phantom sword. Come on then,